rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Connell, would you like to lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Councilman Cahoon. Just roll call. Councilman Morado.
Here.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Here.
Councilwoman Souza.
Here.
And Council President Brito.
Here. Next item, please.
Mr. President, may I just ask that I'd like to move to seal the minutes from executive session.
Okay, we have a motion to seal the minutes from executive session. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
We have a second. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Can I just make an observation? If our plan is to reconvene, should we be sealing the minutes now?
That's a good point. Good point. Yeah. Although we have to come out and seal them
We're going
again.
to seal after, so let's seal
Okay.
after.
We'll
All
come
right.
back out and do that. All
So
right.
you want to
Very
retract the
good.
motion?
Yeah, I'll take that back. Thanks.
With that being said, we may proceed in the order that we have on the docket, please.
Okay. The next item is approval of the consent calendar. That includes council journals March 26th, April 16th, April 23rd, June 27th, regular and executive session notes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to approve Council Journal, seconded by Councilman Cahoon. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Me.
Councilman
Thank you,
Cahoon.
Nate. Thank you, Councilman Cahoon. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Quick question before. The executive session, are those for those 4 days also?
Yes.
All right, so can we seal the minutes on those two prior to
Okay.
the consent?
Yes. Yes.
So the motion would be to approve the minutes and seal the executive session minutes as of on the dates listed on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. We'll continue on with the roll call vote, please.
Okay.
Second.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Next item is cancellation abatements for the vote. First one is June 2018. That's for the month of June 2018 for the cancellation and abatements in the amount of $4,945.37.
Yeah. Mr. President, I so move approval.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Anyone like to second that?
A second.
All right, we have a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Councilman Roberts, would you like to make a suggestion here?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to have council support to move up an item, the resolution naming the East Providence Senior Center. Been in touch with some of the particulars there, and I know they graciously decided to come today, namely Mr. Rock, and they have some important matters to attend very shortly. So I indicated I would ask that we could move them up on the docket. The matters are not happy ones that they have to go to later tonight, but I've asked that you could please consider moving that item. I'd make it in the form of a motion.
At the pleasure of the council, I have no issue or problem with moving that up.
I have no issue.
Okay. With that being said, please proceed with moving that up.
The item is resolution requesting that the East Providence City Council rename the East Providence Senior Center as the Robert E. Rock Senior Center. Introduced by Council Vice President Rodrick.
Mr. President, thank you. And I think it's a resolution that all of us are somewhat involved with at different points. The mayor's office had been in touch with us. As you know, they need a council member to promote a certain resolution. So I certainly agreed that in consideration of this, I would put my name on it, and I think most of us have. And I would just say this, I won't read the whole thing. I don't think we need to read all of these resolutions. I'll tell you the heart and soul of it. And for me, the heart and soul of it is we've had one senior center in East Providence, and the first paragraph says, whereas in 1993, the city began the process for a new senior center with the establishment of a senior advisory board consisting of 34 members, and in March of 1996 began that process to purchase 6.7 acres of property, the old Country Day property, and located at the corner of Pawtucket and Warren Avenue. And it goes on to say that at the opening, May 11th, 1998, the first ever professional director of the senior center was hired, Mr. Robert Rock. A lot of that sounds good, but why I like Robert Rock is he's a classmate of mine. He's Providence High School, 1972, and I think we had several classes together, and through the years, I've certainly followed his career. It seems obvious that the constituents of the senior center have been impressed with his leadership and the innovation that he has brought there. In January 2002, the center was awarded national accreditation, something that several others in Rhode Island do not have. Renovations and grants awarded over the years allowed the senior center to expand its space to 25,000 square feet. And those of us familiar with senior center, most of us up here are too young to go there often. I legally can now join, and I have visited, and they've done a great job there. So Mr. Rock has served the city in a couple of capacities. And with having said that, I won't read all of the legal mumbo jumbo, but I would say that now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of East Providence hereby names the East Providence Senior Center as the Robert E. Rock Senior Center. And to avoid a conflict, because we are townies from 72, I would ask one of you to make the motion, or I'll make the motion.
Class of 93, so moved.
So we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Cahoon for approval of the resolution naming the senior center the Robert E. Rock Senior Center.
Class of 72 would second that.
Class of 72 would second that. Do I have a class of 68 that would?
I was born in 71, so I don't qualify.
Okay. With that being said, Madam Clerk, maybe take a vote on this, please?
Yes. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Mr. Rock?
Mr. President, thank you.
We'd like to thank you for your service and the hard work that you did going into the senior center. You did a wonderful job. I'm sure you're going to be missed, but I'm also sure that you'll be around as well.
Also, Mr. President, 93 when he started, he had a full head of hair. Gets the job weighed on him. Congratulations, Bob. Thank you.
Mr. Rock, would you like to say a couple words? If not, don't be pressured.
We have all night.
How much time do you have?
Mr. President, members of the council, thank you very much. I am humbled by this honor, but as anyone knows, in 21 years, only one name is going to go on that, but it's been a team for 21 years, and I had a lot of people behind me, and it's not just me. It's a lot of people, and a lot of people who live in the city that volunteer to make things work, and that's why we are what we are. And the city has been very good to the seniors, and we just hope that it goes forward. So again, I appreciate the honor, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that being said, we may proceed in the order of the docket at this point in time.
The next item is under approval of consent calendar B, item 2, August 2018, and the total is $4,017.24 under cancellation and abatements.
Mr. President, I think we could since we approved the complete consent calendar, we don't have to individually
Okay.
approve. I think we're all set. We can move on to
So,
sections.
Next item, please.
Okay, next item. Licenses not requiring public hearing for vote, special event, alcoholic beverage, Marianne Marquez. Event, fish dinner fundraiser, date September 14th, 2019. There is a second event as well. I don't know if you want to batch that together or not. It's for
Sure.
St. Francis Xavier. The event is a 30-week dinner club, and the date is October 19th, 2019.
Is the applicant here at this time? Or representative? No one seems to be here at this point in time. At the pleasure of the council, anyone have any issues or concerns? They have everything in place?
Everything's in place?
Okay,
Motion to approve?
Second.
okay. Roll call vote, please. This is for 1
Motion
and
to
2.
approve 1 and 2.
Yes.
To be more specific.
Second, 1 and 2.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Morato?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye. Next item, please.
Item number 3 is also licenses not requiring public hearing for vote. That's Susan Costa with East Providence Elk Lodge, number 2337. The event is the outdoor family-orientated movie viewing. This did happen August 16th. The rain date, this is basically a read-in. The city clerk will have it. Yeah.
Okay, is the applicant here? The applicant is not here, or representative? With that being said, all their information's in?
Everything is in. Also, if you look under B1 as well, there's application for one-day entertainment license. That is in conjunction with this.
Okay, so can we just package this one as well?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to
The
approve.
liquor license and the one-day entertainment license.
Okay. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
We have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Morato?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye. Next item, please.
Application for flea market license, Tanisha Thomber, Burrito Bowl, 809 Broadway, 02914.
Is the applicant present? Would you like to step up to the podium, please? Right to your right.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Madam Clerk, any questions, concerns, or issues?
No issues on my end. All paperwork has been turned in through the clerk's office.
Okay.
Mr. President, what are certain days or hours that you're requesting this for?
Not really, just certain weekends, I guess, until the end of September.
Everything's in order. If there's no other outstanding questions, I move approval.
Okay.
Second?
All right, we have roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Morato?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
And Council President Brito?
Aye. I do see that we have her up here for a peddler's license as well.
That's true.
So why we have her here? You're the same? It says,
I didn't put in for
Oh, no, not
license.
Tanisha. Nope, that's a different one.
no? Okay. Well, very good. You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item is application for peddler license, Union Burrito, Rory Miller, 326 Bullocks Point Avenue, 02915.
How about Roxana Gomes?
Oh, I'm sorry, Roxanne.
Yeah.
Sorry, Roxanne. Application for hawker license, Roxanne Gomes, 49 Swan Street, 02914.
Is the applicant here? The applicant or representative? No? All the paperwork in place?
All paperwork's in.
What is the
Everything's-
nature of the license?
The nature of the
Of the
license
business?
was jewelry, just doing different jewelry, watches. That's how she explained it to me when she came in. She makes her own jewelry.
So should be selling it, is she setting up a location? Or is that just her license, her address?
That's just her address. She'll have different locations.
Mr. President, if I can, so we don't have a specific location or hawker, is this to just move around the city? I don't know, I'm looking for a little more information, I think, from the applicant. If they're not here, and if we don't have it, I don't know, might want to wait till the next meeting.
I make a motion to table for more information. Maybe we can reach out to the applicant.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I can give you some, I'm sorry, so the hawker peddler's license does allow them to operate within city limits, and as long as they're not in a stationary store, so they do need to move around and operate on city streets. That's basically what a hawker's and peddler's license is. So apparently they meet all the requirements of the license. They've submitted an application. They're no different from any other hawker peddler. They're just selling jewelry.
But I think there's an ordinance that says that they have to provide at least 10 locations to meet approval.
Yeah, it's-
I believe,
So,
I don't know if they've done that in the application.
so in the section for hawkers and peddlers in section 8-142, under application item D, all hawkers are required to submit with their application a list of up to 10 locations where they propose to stop and remain for any period of time, so the police chief and the city council can review and approve the locations before the license is approved. If the hawker wishes to add locations at a later date, they must appear again in front of the city council for approval by the police chief and the council of the new locations.
So did she provide any addresses on her application?
No locations were.
So not to get too technical, but for that language, it says they're required to provide a list of up to 10 locations.
Up to.
Not at least or not at least one. Up to 10 includes 0 as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what the intent of the ordinance
yield
was.
to
I
you.
don't know what
I mean,
past
I
history
think the
has
city
been,
clerk has historically accepted these licenses without that information. I don't know if that's been a change of policy. I don't believe it has. So she certified that everything else has been met. So but it's up to you.
Before we vote, we have a motion on the floor for a table. So if we are, we're going to have to rescind that motion. And
I'm good either way, really. I mean, if we want more information, that's fine. That seems.
So I believe that intent for that ordinance, because it was a change, because we had hawkers issues previously in the community,
Okay.
and so we wanted to know where people were going to be in the community, because certain communities didn't want people in their area. So I think it's important that at least we have one location that their intention is.
and the applicant is not here or representative? Okay. So
agree.
we have a
I'd
motion
like-
on the floor for the table discussion.
Isn't the intent also so that there's no conflict to what they're selling? Conflict with an established, business? Like, for example, if there's an established business selling hot dogs and a hawker or peddler is trying to sell hot dogs, they can't put their cart in front of that business. Isn't that what the intent of this ordinance?
The intent was really to know where people were going to be, because, again, there were people who were selling things in locations that the neighborhood didn't want them to be. They didn't feel like they were it was just a better screening process, essentially.
And regardless if it's been past practice, in the clerk's defense, you can't know every single ordinance and statute and law, so doesn't mean that we can't do things right moving forward either, so.
Yeah, and I have no question about the clerk's office process with this. I just would like, if we're going to have roving hawkers in the city, I'd like them to come so we could ask a couple questions. And with letter of the law, we probably don't have to mandate that, but with our summer schedule, we're meeting again September 3rd. It's not too far off. So I'd like to move the question and put it on the September 3rd docket.
Well, we do have a motion
We
by
have the motion,
Councilwoman,
so I'm
it's just a matter of a second.
Right.
Second.
So you
I
second?
I seconded it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Souza to table the discussion, seconded by Councilman Rodrick. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye, and I just ask that we put this on the docket for the next meeting, and that Ms. Gomes be contacted to appear before
I
the
can do
council.
that, absolutely. And Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Application for peddler's license. Thank you. Union Burrito, Rory Miller, 326 Bullocks Point Avenue, 02915. Also, there are applications for peddler drivers for Rory Miller and Krista Miller. as well.
Okay, is the applicant here? Or representative, please step up to the podium, sir. Can you just state your name for the record, please?
Rory Miller.
Okay.
Sorry, Rory Miller.
Okay. All the paperwork in place? We have any questions, concerns, issues?
There was a little bit of a concern at the point of, there was a soft opening that was being advertised prior to getting a business license. The business license was, I think it's Allison. Allison came into the office, into the clerk's office the day before the soft opening to obtain a business license. When she came in the morning, she did not have proof of insurance with her, and she also didn't have an inspection. So at that time, we denied the license because there's a huge propane tank that's connected to it, and it's the right and fair thing to do for any business in the city to make sure that everybody has what they need when they get their business license. And if they don't have something, if they don't have all the information, we turn it away. And I don't know if it was yourself and Alyssa or whoever it was, later on went to the mayor's office to try to get that overridden by the city clerk's office, and then it was not issued. So, and at that time, the solicitor did come down and let me know that, showed me all the paperwork. All the paperwork was there. This isn't the first time that it's been waiting to the last minute for the business license. Proud Mary's, when you opened up Proud Mary's as well, that business license was waited until the last minute as well. And I think the clerk's office actually had to stop the opening because you were operating without a license. We have documentation of that. I'd be happy to share it with you. But that is the only concern that I have.
So do we have at this point in time
all the
do they have all the
paperwork, yeah, all the
They went through
paperwork, and
the
I did call,
inspections
I called the insurance company directly and said that, she did say that Union Burrito would be under the Proud Mary's LLC, so that was taken care of and covered. So as of right now, everything is,
Okay.
everything's in.
All right. So
There was
can
just
we-
that little concern that happened.
All right. With that being said, can we,
Everything's in order now.
everything's in order?
And Mr. Mill, everything's in order as far as you're concerned now. We're all caught up.
There's,
Going forward,
I'd be more than happy to get into details, but I don't think this is the time or place for it, but I'm more than happy to. But yeah, everything is actually exactly as it was 3 weeks ago. We have all the paperwork in order.
And that's
Yeah.
all I'm concerned about at this
Yes.
time. At the pleasure of the council, does anyone have any questions or concerns? If not, would anyone like to make a motion?
I move approval. I thank the clerk's office for having our interest at heart, and I wish Mr. Miller good luck. This is, we're all here as a win-win. You know, let's support business and do it as we're doing tonight. So with everything now being caught up, I move approval.
Okay. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
And we have a second on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
And Council President Britton?
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
We have J.A. Patty R.I., Allison Rosario, for an application for a peddler license.
Is the applicant here? Applicant is not here. They have all the information.
They have everything that they need now. That's also an application for a peddler driver for Conroy Otar.
Okay.
Do we have information? What are they peddling? What are they?
For J.A. Patty R.I., they are, what that escapes me right now. I do know it is a restaurant. It's a food truck.
So the application is for drivers.
It's application for peddler driver, and also the J.A. Patty R.I. is the name of the food truck. I believe it's Jamaican food or something like that. The business is operated outside of Pawtucket.
All their paperwork is in.
Everything is.
There's no questions or concerns.
Yep,
Okay.
confirmed
With
insurance.
that being said, it's at the pleasure of the council for a vote.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Second. Anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Communications, birthday party / block party to block off Pilgrim Avenue on Roger Williams side entrance until the end of Pilgrim Avenue. Stephen Mora.
Is Mr. Mora here, or representative? Would you like to step up, please?
Hello.
How are you, sir?
All right, and you?
Okay, can you just state your name for the record?
Stephen Mora.
Okay. Does he have everything that he needs to have at this point in time? You just want to block off a block party the street?
What it says,
for your
it's to the
residents?
end of Pilgrim. I don't want the whole street blocked just in case emergency vehicles have to. So I want it from Roger Williams to the end of my parents' property. So I want to leave the Campbell side open.
Okay.
So,
All right. I don't have any concerns or questions at this time. Does anybody?
Are the neighbors on board?
yes, it only, the blocking that I want to do only interferes with one driveway. The person that lives across the street from me.
This is not your first block party, right?
On that street, no. Yeah. Yeah.
You realize if this is in Rumford, President Brito has to be invited?
Yeah, he's invited.
Be careful.
You guys are all invited.
I've done it before.
I move approval.
So we have a motion for approval. Seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For the record, can we make sure that they do have, I think they get horses to block the street off as well. One of the previous block parties, the police showed up, although it was approved by the council.
Okay, yeah, I will follow up with Chief Nevis tomorrow.
Okay. Next item, please.
Flooding along Runnings River, William M. Lewis.
Mr. Lewis here? Oh, Billy.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Excellent.
Okay. And what are you looking to establish with this?
I'm looking to establish, now that we've got the Runnings River portion done, if we could do something with the back portion, which runs into the Runnings River on, I think it's the north side. Well, it all flows together. It's right behind the building on 1175, right behind Lucky's. And the flooding's getting to the point to where it's just pouring into the building, and I just spent a couple bucks on it. It's already starting to buckle it.
And what would you like to see?
About 5-6 years ago, they dredged it out, removed all the debris, and it started flowing again. Right now, I got a beaver dam in there, some trees, overgrow.
Okay.
It's just destroying the property.
Hi, Billy.
Hello, Anna.
Hi. So, as you know, we've had multiple discussions about how it affects your business, along with the community. So normally, a lot of the conversation has always been the State Street neighborhood and not so much the businesses like your parking lot in that area that also is highly affected because of that river and how it overflows. Am I excited? And this is actually on the docket tonight, so I'm glad you were, ahead of the game too and came to speak. As the neighborhood and the community knows, we did just finish that culvert project that we have been waiting for.
Thank God it's finished.
Yes, thank God it's finished, and hopefully that'll provide some much-needed relief. Is that the end to our issues on the river? No, it's not, and we all know that. We know that there's a lot of other work that needs to be done in terms of the invasive species. So the city had hired a company to go in, treat it, mow it. After seeing what they had done to it, it wasn't enough. Really, what needs to happen is it needs to come out. We need to kill it. We need to dredge it, pull it out, so that we can get all that slough and stuff out. And when we can put those pictures up to show the community what it looks like. And actually, if we look on the East Providence side, it's all overgrown, right?
That's exactly what it is.
All overgrown. And
It
then you
becomes a
turn
swamp.
to the Seekonk side, and it's a little bit better cleaned up. I mean, not great as you go down at where your building is. The initial entrance is cleaned up a little bit better, but a lot of work needs to be done. So I am having a community meeting next month
I do believe I heard that.
Yep. So I am going to set up a date for that and go over some other options along with the plan. I'm working with the DPW and the mayor's office to get that taken care of. So as a collective group with the neighborhood, we're hoping to get better resolve.
What I'm looking for is to get the AOK to do it myself. I mean, because it's literally causing, the floor alone cost me $10,000 and it's already starting to buckle.
Right.
I don't know if we can
Everything-
approve that, though. I think that would come through the mayor's office and the DPW, actually.
So do you mind, I mean, since you're up here, can I move my agenda item up regarding the culvert? Because it doesn't make sense to then go back and talk. So if we could get the pictures up that I took of us, of the area prior to it being finished or in the middle of working on it. So the problem is that area needs, it's protected land, right? It's, so DEM is involved, and with that comes permitting and approval. So unlike overgrowth in your neighbor's yard or near in your property, you can't just cut it down. We need approval from DEM to do so, and that's for all kinds of natural preserve reasons. So DEM, where I believe last I heard, they're finishing that permit process. So if we look here, this is the East Providence side. So that's all overgrowth in the water. This is the Seekonk side, so that's the new culvert that they just finished. And that is what Seekonk's side looks like. Now, that's how the whole river should look, open, not with overgrown, and that's the finished product, not with overgrown hedges and bushes and trees that are growing on top of
That's
dirt.
the
And
Seekonk side.
this is the East Providence side right now. The Seekonk side has a more of a narrow path that's opened, and then it gets thicker as it goes to your property.
I'm more worried about the back of the property.
Right.
Where the runoff is from the highway and everything, so I don't know if that would be a DEM issue, because, I mean, it's runoff with gasoline, oil, and all that.
Right, but it all dumps, I believe, into that same area.
Yes, exactly.
Same area. So that's state and that's state issue. So again, it's on the problem with anything getting done is everything is multiple people that have to be involved.
Yeah,
Getting on the
tell me
same
that.
page. So there lies the time. So it's not that we're not working on it, because as everybody knows, I've advocated very hard for this to
Yes,
take
you have.
place. And then, just because the culvert's in does not mean that I'm not going to continuously advocate to finish the things that need to be done. And it's not just in that area, it goes all the way down Commercial Way and all the way up past your business. So it's not a small project. It affects people in neighborhoods, so we have other ideas to do in that area. Again, town meeting is where we're going to collectively, business owners, neighbors, anybody in the community who may have some suggestions or just want to be involved collectively, that's where we're going to have the discussion of what we want to do, plan on doing, and then how does everybody else feel about it in the community? Because I know it affects more than one person in a different way.
Yes, I agree. Is there any way we could do this in a speedy fashion?
Believe me, I wish it took me 2 years.
Oh, I know that, and I know a lot of it had to do with the prior owners, and I think
So-
I've been very patient and very
Yes.
very accommodating.
Yes, you have, and I appreciate that. And the residents have been very patient and understanding, though, the ones that have gone through the hardship with all the floods and the increased insurance that they have to pay in their homes because of the flooding. So all I can say is in the next couple of weeks, we'll have that community meeting and then move on. I'm somebody who likes to get things done. I don't like to, kick the can down the road or have a lot of time in between, because I think if you put time in between things, then other things get in front of what you wanted to do, and then you never get it done. So,
Do you think there's any way I could get DPW to put some sandbags in the meantime, so I don't lose my investment that I've already made?
Right. Well, we can go down there, take a look at it, and assess the situation, and yeah, I mean, there's plenty of free sand in the in the city we can use to help you with that. Absolutely.
Mr. President, I would say, Mr. Lewis, that appreciate your patience in that it looks like, I think you can be assured the city's moving. I want to thank Councilwoman Souza, who I know for years has been on this project, and then she's worked along with Mayor De Silva, who came in and this thing got going. So, Councilwoman, thank you for, I know this has been going on for years and years, and you've been at the forefront of it, and now we're working with the mayor's office, they're getting it done. Sandbags, I don't know, I'm sure maybe I could ask the city clerk to contact Mr. Furtado in the morning as a liaison for us and see if he could ask DPW about the possibility of I don't know, is Mark here? No, I don't want you to come up, but, and I see Steve is here. Steve, I don't want you to have to, I don't want to hold you to anything, but I don't know if the request is valid. It might not be a valid one, but can you at least look into that about the sandbagging?
Sorry, Steve, I didn't even see you.
So he'll look into that, and I think this project is finally on the move, but thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next, we have mayoral communications.
Mr. President, if I can interrupt the clerk, if we could hold off for a second. As a courtesy, we have several school department officials here tonight, the school committee chair, and I've asked them to briefly, and they said they'll be brief because they'll be before us for the budget. I have a specific question I would like to ask them, and Anthony Fiola, who is the structural manager, the facilities manager, as well as security, school committee chairman, Charles Chonis is here, school committee member Joel Montero is here. Saw the superintendent of schools earlier at a service in town, and she was going to try to come by, but they've promised to be brief, and with council consent, could we have them come up? And some of these communications could be a little bit lengthy, so I really don't want to have them stay here. They extend the courtesy to us when we go to school committee meetings, and they will be coming back in September with budget discussions. So if no one objects, I'd like to see Mr. Fiola, and if the Chairman Chonis and Mr. Montero want to accompany him to the podium.
Councilmember, is this under the communications number B, the update of the infrastructure?
Yes, yes. Thank you. I'm sorry, I should have cleared that up. That's under council member communications, letter B.
I have no objection to that, Councilman.
No objections from the council? If that's the case, please step up to the podium.
And as they approach the podium, this is what I'm after and what I'm looking for. This is not to have a discussion on the new high school. There'll be a time and a place for that. But as a lot of us know, recently there was a study by the Johns Hopkins Institute which talked about the state of the facilities, thank you, in Providence. And in much of Rhode Island, schools are crumbling, and there's an issue. And I don't want to see that happen in East Providence. I think we're on the move. We have a beautiful new high school being built as we speak, and I think we need to reassure the public of a few things. And I've asked Chairman Chonis, Mr. Fiola, if you could please let us know, have we been sitting pat? And I don't think we have been, but what is the condition? Forget the no high school, but what is the condition of our infrastructure, our schools? How are we doing in 3 words or less?
Impossible. It's impossible to. But thank you very much, President Bitto and the entire City Council. Thank you for the invitation. I know, Mr. Fiola, as you see in front of you, it has been tracking very closely the work that's been done in the school district. I know Mr. Cahoon is very well aware of this, but for about 10 years now, the school department has been getting approval from RIDE, and then upon completion of these projects, we receive payment from the state. We have been doing this for 10 years, and that is how we have been maintaining our schools and doing the work. As everyone knows, there are studies like the Jacobs Report. The Jacobs Report has told every city and town in the state what they have to do specifically in each school. I mean, we're on top of these things, and we're moving forward. And again, you have a list in front of you. We have come a long way, okay? And we are considered to be in a good place by people statewide. They have looked at our schools, and they consider us to be in a good position. We're not done. There's a lot of work to do. But as long as we make our money work for us, and that's what we're doing here, as we do a project approved by RIDE, at the completion of that project, we pay the bill, and then we are compensated by the state. It obviously comes through the city coffers, but we are compensated by the state. So we're doing a project at 50 cents on the dollar, roughly. And that's how we've been keeping ahead of it. I will defer to Mr. Fiola because he can give you some specific information. You have the list of work that, in front of you. And besides this, I will mention that we have built playgrounds at all of our schools now, all of our elementary schools, with the last one being at White Neck. And it's a very special playground at White Neck. So besides all of what you see here, we live in a very generous community, and the community has supported our efforts in the school district. So, Mr. Fiola, would you, he'll be glad to take any questions from anyone and address the compensation, et cetera.
Sorry, thanks, folks. Just an added point, definitely with the playgrounds, PTAs, thank you very much. Huge push for those projects, and we're happy to be a small piece of that. The important piece to add on to that reimbursement money, and I'd say we started probably with, I'll say with Superintendent Mercer, with Mr. Catelli, we started really recycling that reimbursement. So not only getting these projects completed for less than 50 cents on the dollar, but taking that reimbursement and committing it back into the capital fund, which is really why we've been able to build that fund. So it's been a multiplier on that investment for the taxpayers' dollar. So I just want to add that.
Thank you. May I add something just before Mr. Fiola gives us this presentation on all the work that's been done, which is phenomenal. I've made this point before. I'll make it again. The city of East Providence traditionally underfunds its school department compared to other school departments within the state. If you take a hard look at the budget, you will see that what the city contributes to the school department does not even cover the salaries of the employees who work within the school department. So all of this work, everything, the infrastructure, the maintenance, all of that stuff comes through funding that we get from the state. Now, to me, I'm glad the state's there, but that's not really living up to our responsibility as a city. So I just want everybody to kind of keep that in mind as Tony presents this to us.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. Thank you on behalf of the school department for letting me speak for a couple of seconds. In front of you is a snapshot of just the past couple of years. And it's just shy of $9 million worth of work. And every day that we look at this, we find new things that we forgot to put on the list. But if you go across there, you can see that every building, every school building in our district has had work in it. It's not saying just Rumford, just Riverside, just center of the city. Every building has work on it. We have 5 new roofs in our district. Every building has a brand new fire alarm system. We have sprinkler systems that we're adding in all our buildings. 5 of them are now all completely sprinklered. You've got new gym floors. We've got new heating systems. Martin Middle School, after the flood, we were able to completely redo the entire boiler room. All the boilers, all the hot water tanks, everything there was done. You have new cafeteria tables, so it's not just the infrastructure, so pieces that we use every day. We had people that were injured using the old tables, so we took the money, we invested in it, and every elementary school now has all brand new tables. Every elementary school, finishing the last paintbrush today, every elementary school has been painted. It's something we started a couple of years ago, and every classroom, we've got a little bit left to do at Kent Heights in the hallways, but other than that, every elementary school has been painted. All of our buildings now, except for Francis, Martin, and a little bit of Riverside, all of our lights have been switched over. We were able to work with National Grid, and I waited till the last second, and we were able to get all of our lights in all those buildings for free. So all we paid for was just the installation. Having our own electrician, that's what we did. We went through, and over the past 2 years, I've replaced every light in all of our elementaries. Francis will be our last one that will start. Part of Riverside has already been done. Library, cafeteria, gyms are already done at Riverside and one corridor. So that's going to be our next project, and Francis will be our last. When we do our construction at Martin, we will replace those. We don't want to replace them until after the construction. But if you look at it, you can see across the board, we've done security upgrades. I'm sorry, I just can't go into all the security upgrades that we've done for safety reasons, but just to give you one idea, we now have a visitor ID system that in our buildings, and when you enter, your license is scanned or your ID is scanned. It goes through the sexual predators database, confirms that you're not on it. On that ID, your picture appears, who you're going to meet, what time you arrived, where in the building you'll be going, and what we do is we take this little tab that says void, it gets put on the ID, and at the end of the day, that's what it looks like. So that ID can never be used again. So we secure that those IDs that everybody's walking around with, take home with them, they're useless. So as part of the upgrades, every one of our buildings has all brand new doors on the outside. We spent almost $1 million to replace our doors. They were in really bad shape. We've used the state's money. We got 54% back on that, and we redid all the doors. If you take a look outside Riverside Middle School, all the sidewalks, handicap ramps were put in. We got an additional 4% on that project because of the handicap ramps. So that became a 58% reimbursement. Silver Spring School over this past summer, we just put in all new parking lots, handicap parking, handicap cutouts. We redid that whole piece and received a 58% reimbursement on that because of it. We're able to turn that money around for the next project. So we've done asphalt projects that have been on hold for years. At Oldham in Riverside Middle School, the circle is finally not underwater anymore. So we're taking these, the money that we have in the capital reserve and turning it over for project after project after project. Every time we get it back, we've already got our plans for the next set of projects. And every so often, the state will have what they call shovel-ready money. And literally, you have weeks to be able to put in a shovel-ready project. And that's a project where you get immediate reimbursement on. So what we work on is we already start ideas on our shovel-ready, and we've got them packaged. So as soon as RIDE drops that in, Silver Spring School is a shovel-ready project. So that money is going to be an immediate turnaround. That 58% is coming back right now. So you can take a look at that list, and it's not all of it. I missed the shades at Riverside Middle School, but this will give you an idea, and you can see where we've done some stuff in-house. The city has been gracious to help us on many of the projects that we needed their help on, and we noted it right on here. National Grid did all the lighting. So we just wanted to show you that our buildings are in really good shape. We're far ahead with all of our buildings have brand new fire alarm system, brand new emergency lighting. We're securing our buildings and pushing our security every day on new ideas.
Tony, others might have questions. My last question would be, reassure me what I can tell, and I know this answer, but what I can tell constituents when they say, you're building this beautiful new high school. Are you going to keep it beautiful? How are you going to maintain it? And isn't there a built-in plan for that?
First of all, it's required by the Department of Education that we put aside X amount of dollars a year that has to be used for that building just because we bonded that money through the Department of Ed. So it has to be done that way. And under the new legislation, there's a percentage that has to be put aside for all of our buildings. We can't just say one building is going to be it. So now if you look at all of our buildings, we're bringing them back up. They've got life again. They've got doors, and they look fresh, and the kids are enjoying themselves, and the teachers aren't in that dingy anymore, and the lights look great. That's just a start for our other 10 buildings, and the high school complex, when it's done, it will look beautiful when it's done. Our objective is to make it our shining light on Pawtucket Avenue and bring all of our other buildings up to that.
Thank you.
So with respect to this reimbursement rate, 58% or even if it's 50%, what is the turnaround time to get reimbursed?
Okay, depending on the project. So if it's a shovel-ready project, it's done immediately.
Oh.
So as soon as we get it certified, they come out, they examine it, and it gets sent in. Now, the other projects, it's a delay. And what will happen, for example, if we finish the project on June 30th and got it in this year, we will get that a year from now. If it went on over the summer, we can't even apply for that to put the project in until next June, which means it'll be 2 years out. And a couple of projects, they reimburse, depending on the size of them, over a 3-year period. So it's not a quick, we watch our numbers, and we also know how much is coming back, which gives us an idea of what projects I can look at for next summer.
Right. Okay.
One thing I just
Either way you look at it, it's still you're getting a bang for your buck.
Absolutely.
No matter how you look at it.
One thing I want to just point out, aside from, again, complimenting the leadership team of the school department and all of the individuals that have played a role over the last decade or so in pulling this off. The process that Tony just described is a competitive one, right? So when you go before the state and you say, we have a shovel-ready project, they look at priorities, they look at needs, they look at how ready you are before they decide whether or not to fund it. And I think we've all read the news in recent days, and I think we can kind of see the way that the winds are blowing with regard to where the state's going to start thinking about in terms of priority. I really, again, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate what the state provides us and the ability to do this, but it's really important for us to start taking care of our own house. For decades, whenever there was a tax cut or a refusal to reduce or increase taxes, that more or less came out of one place, and it came out of the school department. And that needs to stop. To Tony's point, we wouldn't even have been able to break ground on the school had we not provided the reasonable and necessary assurances that we're going to keep it from doing what the last school did. So going forward, I just wanted to plant that bug in all our ears. I mean, I'm going to be beating the table about it every time we come around for budget time. But if there's a better investment that you can make as a municipality than in your school department, I don't know what it is.
Thank you, Councilman. Gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate your time and coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out. No pool, though, right?
With that being said, Madam Clerk, we may proceed to the next item, please.
The next item is mayoral communications. Item number 1, auditing standard number 114, the auditor's communication with those charged with governance regarding audit of City of East Providence, Rhode Island.
Is someone going to be here speaking on behalf of the communication? Mr. Luba?
Evening. I'm here pinch hitting for Director Moore, who really wanted to be here tonight and to address this matter with you, but he is ill, so I am in his stead. What this communication, what this matter is a communication that each of you should have received from Blum Shapiro, our external independent auditor. The communication is dated July 15th, and it's in regard to the audit that is currently being conducted on year-end October 31st, 2018. The reason you're getting this communication is that under Section 2.9 of the Charter, you are empowered to conduct an independent audit. the city's finances. So essentially, the auditor reports to you, the opinion is addressed to you, and at the end of the audit, as has happened in the past, the auditor comes in, explains the results to you, talks about any control issues that or problems that the audit firm may have had. What the communication basically gets into is how they conduct the audit. And essentially, as you know, the vast majority of audits are conducted, they do it on a test basis. So they'll go in and they'll look at accounts payable. They're not going to look at every transaction because that would be prohibitive on cost. They test sample, and if the sample turns out to be okay, they're fine with it. If the sample turns out not to be okay, they'll test more items, and they'll keep testing items until they can say that they don't think there is any material issues with the financial statements that they're looking at. So that's what they're telling you they're doing. They're also indicating that they're going to prepare the audit report, even though the city is basically responsible for it. And they are also going to evaluate the control atmosphere here and the policies of the city. They disclaim, even though they say, you know, their opinion does not, that there is no material weakness or material misstatement of the financial statements, they say that because they don't test everything, that something could have slipped through, but in their opinion, they don't think that's happened. So they disclaim a few things. They also disclaim that, you know, they look for fraud, but they may not catch it. You know, audits aren't perfect. They're pretty good. But as we found in, you know, the Enron situation, they got clean opinions from their auditors for years, and their financials were a mess. And ultimately, an audit firm went out of business for that. A long-standing, very reputable audit firm, Arthur Andersen, is no longer around. So, you know, they disclaim some matters, but they tell you how they do their audit. And as I said, in the end, they're going to come in and tell you what they found. And basically, this is a boilerplate letter that's sent to every engagement according to auditing standards. And that's it. Any questions?
I have a couple of questions,
sure,
if I may. So who gets to pick the items to be looked at by the auditors?
The auditors do.
So they randomly pick topics?
They have a statistical program, and let's say you have 40,000 items, they statistically pick a sample of that sort of, and you pull them, you give them to them, they look at them, and hopefully they turn out okay.
To clarify, if I may just clarify that question, by items, are we talking about which transactions?
Yeah.
They choose the transactions?
Yeah, let's say it's accounts payable, they'll choose the transactions. If it's cash, they'll audit the bank statements. You know, it depends what they're looking at. Prepaids, they'll look at the transactions. As I said, usually they don't look at everything, and it's a sample.
So how many years have we used the same company?
This is the first audit of Bloom Shapiro. Every 3 years, the state requires you to go out for bid. You could pick the same audit firm, but I think after every 5 years or so, you have to change audit firms. And it's a good idea to change audit firms. They get comfortable auditing your financial statements. They may miss certain things that are there, so a fresh set of eyes is usually a pretty good thing.
So per charter provision, can the council order a more in-depth audit?
You are empowered to conduct the audit, so if you
How many years have we had the same type of audit? conducted, whether it be this company now or previous company?
Forever.
So wouldn't it be in the best interest of the city to have a more in-depth audit at some point?
The audit firms, it's generally not done. I mean, you can certainly do it. It'll be expensive. Audits aren't cheap. I'm not sure if you would gain any greater satisfaction, because the audit firms are pretty good. And if they see anything that's irregular, they do more testing. But, you know, it's certainly under your powers to engage in more comprehensive audit. This particular audit was not engaged to be such an audit, but it's under your authority.
Mr. President, if I may, Paul, and I feel kind of weird being over here. I'm used to asking a question from over there. But so in going through that letter, which, as you say, is very much a form letter, and trying to determine how, so my question is less about the selection of the transactions and more about the selection of the scope around which the auditors frame their audit. They state that, you know, while they look for material misstatements, that it's not really their job to make recommendations about internal controls.
But they do. They'll give you a letter of control weaknesses in the end.
Okay. But they also state some other things in here about, you know, they do cybersecurity audits, for example. And I don't know that we have any agency currently doing cybersecurity audits on the city's systems. Am I correct? Or
I don't think any outside agency is currently doing it. I think the IT director is looking to do such an audit. I know we've done things internally, like send out, you know, phishing emails, you know, to certain departments and so all departments, I guess, and to see who is bitten on them. But I think that's in the plans, but I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah, and that's my larger point is, if this is ultimately the council's audit, right, and presumably the audit is delivered to the council so that the council can have the assurances that it needs to approve a budget, right, to make a decision on a budget.
Well, not so much the budget, the financial statements of the last year. They're auditing last year's financials, not next year's financials.
Right. But I would submit that if the council doesn't have confidence that that money is being spent efficiently or is being potentially misused, then the council would probably take appropriate actions, or hopefully a competent council would. So shouldn't the council have input into what that report ultimately looks like? So when we choose the auditor, why is it not the council who says, well, these are the things that we really need to see? Can you provide that to us in your year-end report?
You could ask for it. Most financial reports are fairly standard, and they are governed by auditing standards and by the state. I mean, the state approves. You know, the city will select an auditor, the state will approve it, and then it goes before council to approve. The financial statements themselves are fairly standard and governed by the broader nationwide accounting standards. They all have to meet that standard. If you want a special audit on something, let's say cyber security, I'm not sure the auditors are the best place, but there's probably someone out there who can do a decent audit in cybersecurity. Or, you know, if you want to audit, let's say that you have suspicions that, you know, someone is is fraudulently doing something, you can ask an audit firm, not particularly this one, you can ask any of them to do an audit for you.
I think my largest concern around the audits is the timing of them. I mean, they're basically telling us what their schedule is here, telling us that they began in May and that they're going to finish at the end of August.
Which may be in September now.
And we have a charter provision that says the mayor's office is supposed to provide a comprehensive report of the previous fiscal years 90 days after the close of the fiscal year, and the audit's supposed to be done 6 months after the fiscal year, which to me means April. So given that that's our requirement, why are they then telling us? And I know that last year's audit wasn't completed until February of 19.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, I would want to be able to say, hey, these are the deadlines that we need as a council to be able to kind of maneuver and make the right decisions at budget time.
One problem that you have is the date of your year end. And the only reason that's a problem is a good portion of the audit is pension information that is provided by the state. And we don't have that information as of yet for the 12/31/18 audit. So the state is, and will probably always be, I don't think they're ever going to catch up. So your audit will always, hopefully not always, but in the foreseeable future, be late because the state cannot or will not provide you with that pension information and the 6-month time frame.
So that synchronization issue is a good point. Do you think, and this is just, I'm just asking for your opinion, do you think that there's any possibility that it's more difficult for auditors to serve our city, that point aside, in that, you know, they are generally engaged in going on a, you know, July 1st to June cycle in other municipalities in the state, or does it make a difference, or just what do you think?
It could even be easier. I mean, aside from the pension issue, which is a problem, and in fact, you don't have a 630 tax year. But, because, you know, most audit firms do have that 630 tax year, and they all bunch up the audits right around, and they have to finish by December 31st. So since you don't have that requirement, it's probably easier for an audit firm to do your audit because they're not as busy.
Mr. President, to this point, when they come back, and thank you, Paul, very much for all those answers, when the auditors do deliver their report to us, I would like to investigate the possibility of working with them to potentially establish next year's priorities, or at least inform them with regard to the things that the council is going to be interested in. And Paul, to your point, if they tell us, hey, look, you know, there's a playbook and we have to run the playbook per federal law, that's fine. But I'd like to get an understanding of what the cost is maybe for some additional services, because personally, you know, when I saw that cybersecurity thing, I said, well, that's, you know, coming from the federal side and moving to state and municipalities, I mean, it's just something that municipalities are just not on board with, you know. So, I mean, those are things that I think we really need to investigate if we're going to get the most bang for the buck. The other thing is, you know, a lot of times, I don't know how you all felt about the letter, but, you know, in reading through a couple of the audits, I mean, they're pretty technical audits, right? And I don't know that we're all financially technical people. So perhaps there's a way that we can get them to write it in such a way that, you know, it's clear to us, it's clear to the public, people can immediately understand what that audit is telling them.
Yeah. But like I said, they have to follow certain standards.
Sure, they absolutely
and
have
the
to.
Standards, in some cases, they're not that logical in what they have to present to you. Some of the statements, in my opinion, aren't worth much to look at. And, you know, they can probably point you to the statements that are really the most relevant. But an audit is, like you said, is a technical document, and all of them are.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I apologize.
No, go ahead.
So to what Councilman Cahoon was saying, so this is more of a generalized, as we've been having on a yearly basis, audit.
Yes.
That would differ from a forensic audit, which would be more along the lines of with Councilman Cahoon and I think Councilman Murata are saying, where you're looking to zone in on specific areas that you may be suspicious of.
Sure. Audit firms will do anything you want for a fee. You are required to do this type of audit, but you can ask them or any audit firm, if you don't like these auditors, to do, whatever you want.
So going forward, is there any way that we can have the auditors expedite, or the state, I should say, expedite the information that we need for the pension? Because this goes on from year after year, and, we need this audit report.
Yeah, I think on the city side and the school side, because it's a combined audit, and some years, the city is on time giving the auditors the information, and some years the school is on time, but, some years they're not. I think now with the lack of turnover on both the city and the school, I think going forward, the information will be going to the auditors in a more timely fashion. The state, I can't guarantee anything, because we brought it up with the Auditor General, and he has not yet given the answer that anything is going to change. I think they're trying, but nothing has happened yet for the pension information. Without that pension information, I mean, you can't complete the audit.
Okay. No further questions? Oh, thank you, Mr. Luba. Appreciate your time once again. Madam
Mr.
Clerk?
President, just, and I don't need Paul for that. I would be very interested in an audit even that says, hey, pension information isn't completed. I mean, this is something we do on the federal side all the time. When you have to close out a contract, you have a forward right pricing agreement, you have rates that are subject to change. The contract is closed subject to, we leave this much money on the contract because the auditing agent may come back and say the contractors do this much more. That's an option I would like to investigate with the auditors as well when they come back. Say, hey, this is the 95% solution.
Yeah. We have to get that expedited one fashion or the other.
Yep, agreed.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item is under mayoral communications is item number 2, memo of understanding regarding council request for information / department head.
Good evening, Mr. President, Vice President, members of the council. I'm here just to bring an update on some negotiations that we've been involved in between the mayor's office and the council. But first I want to start with where this all started, what the genesis of this all is, all right? Just so everyone out there has a full understanding of what it is we're trying to achieve as the mayor's office and the council. Back in 2017, the people of East Providence decided that they wanted to change the form of government from a council-manager form of government to a mayor-council form of government with a strong mayor in position. 78.54% of the people voted on and approved the mayoral amendments. 75.9% approved the appointment methods, the changes that were made to the charter, and 85.38% approved the overall charter update. Why did we have this charter change? The reason we had the charter change was because people were fed up with the way things were being comported in city government. There was a lot of disorganization. There was no true leadership. There were a lot of issues and things that were happening, and people got fed up with it. So after a careful review by a charter commission, the charter commission came up with some amendments, and the people voted on it and supported it. Now, when I took office, maybe a week in, I just wanted to inform and educate our personnel and our employees that all council communications should come through the executive branch. So I had sent out an email informing our employees saying, hey, if any council people contact you for anything that they want to get done, just forward them up to the mayor's office. We'll deal with it. We'll talk with them. Because we didn't want what had happened in the past to happen again. Not that this council would do that. However, we didn't want that to be the case, and we wanted to kind of set the tone right from the beginning. Well, that caused some issues because people weren't following what we had asked, and that's okay. So we sent out a follow-up memorandum, an email just explaining, hey, this is what we'd like to see happen. Come through the mayor's office to avoid any perception or any other issues of having council people directly deal with department employees or members of administration. We just wanted to make sure that there was some type of a clear understanding of how things would proceed going forward with this new form of government. So that led to some issues. Came to the point where one of the council members, Councilman Morado, decided he wanted to look at putting in an amendment to the charter to create the ability for the council to order department heads to be at the council. So in speaking to some of the council members, we thought it'd be best if we sit down and talk things out, come up with a plan. And the only plan I'm looking for, and from day one, was that the communication comes through the council to the mayor's office. If they're requesting somebody be here, let us know who it is you're looking to see and what particular issue you have, what department it is, and give us an idea of what the questions are, what you're going to be inquiring about. Because we feel very importantly that our department personnel should have an opportunity to research the topic item that will be discussed and to have the answers for you here when the time comes. Now, one of the things I want to avoid is the situation that may occur when a council person feels that they're not getting a quick enough response or they're not getting what they want to see happen. We don't want to see the council turn around and use that as a way to be punitive towards department personnel or department heads and things of that nature. So that was very important for us to come up with a memorandum. So recently, August 14th, myself, Councilman Cahoon, Councilman Morado, we met to discuss putting together a memo draft. Now, that was about 3 weeks ago now. We met, we talked, we discussed things back and forth. We put together a draft. Actually, Mr. Furtado put it together. But like anything else, when you're putting a draft together, there's a lot of different versions of the draft. The draft was put together. We had our legal counsel take a look at it to make sure it fit within the confines of the charter. And we needed to make some changes. Then we looked at it again. By the time we got it all ready and ready, set to go, it was August 14th when we sent, August 14th, we sent the copy of the memo to the two councilmen involved. We had actually met on July 31st. All right, so it was 2 weeks later. My mistake on that original quote. So July 31st is when we met. 2 weeks later, we sent them a draft of what we thought might be something acceptable. The conversation had gone along the lines of, hey, get us something before the council meeting so we can take a look at it. Well, so here we are today. The memo really follows what we've been asking all along, and we thought we had understanding from the council. And basically, it just requires that a form be filled out in advance, 4 days before the docket is actually posted, so we have time to prepare, saying exactly who the council person is that's requesting it, what you're looking to get, what are the questions you have that you want answered, and that form would be then submitted to the mayor's office, and we would get the personnel that would be best capable of answering the question. We will never deny, and I've said it since day one, we will never deny administration personnel to be here to answer questions that you may have, legitimate questions that you have about anything. If it's on the docket and it's something you want to talk about, we'll have someone there. As a matter of fact, we have many department heads here today, and if you go back and check the record, you'll see that department heads have come up on various different issues throughout our first 8 months in service. Now, the idea, and I got to give credit to Mr. O'Connell, he actually approached me one day with the idea of putting together this little form that would be filled out. So we took your ideas, Mr. O'Connell. I appreciate that. So there's other. Should I read the whole memo? Do you guys want me to read it so we get an understanding? So basically, all it's asking is the memorandum of understanding is made and entered into on August blank 2019 by and between Mayor De Silva and the City Council of the City of East Providence. This MOU is intended to create a workable procedure for the requesting of members of the administrative service to appear at City Council meetings. It will be in effect from the date that this agreement is signed until January 3rd, 2022, which will be the end of our term. Both the Mayor and Council will agree to the following. A form shall be made available to members of the Council created by the Mayor's office, which must be completed in its entirety and submitted to the Mayor's office either in person or through email, through an email address to be created. The form shall state the name of the council member, the department that is being requested, the issue that the member of the council wishes, the member of the administrative services to speak on, and the nature of the topic of inquiry. The form shall be submitted no later than 4 days prior to posting of the docket for the council meeting for which the members of the administrative service is being requested to ensure compliance under Rhode Island Open Meetings Act. And that's also to allow us time to prepare. We want to make sure that we can get people to get together, get the data, put it together, and present an intelligent report. If a council member wishes a member of the administrative service to speak on multiple issues, separate forms must be filled out. And we just know that, look, we just don't want, and we don't want to see a member of the service to be being called up on a particular issue, and then all of a sudden the conversation diverts into something that they're not prepared to answer. We just want to make sure that they're fully prepared to answer all your questions and to provide the information. The member of the administrative service appearing before the council shall answer all questions to the best of their ability requested by the council members, provided they continue to fall under the particular docket item being discussed. If the members of the administrative service does not have the answers to a particular question at the time of the meeting, they shall obtain and provide it to the council members prior to the subsequent council meeting. That was pretty much the form of the draft that we had put together that we would hope and that the council will take a look at and approve. Now, I can say this. It's important that our administrative services have the opportunity to find the information, get the information together to provide a good report to you. Recently, we had a councilman who asked for some data on some vehicles, and the data was put together, and I wasn't pleased with the result of the report. And it took a little bit longer than I expected. So what did I do as the chief executive? We had a meeting. We sat down and we said, look, this is unacceptable. Going forward, you have to do a better job putting together these type of reports. What was the issue? What happened? What lapsed? But I'll tell you what happened. What happened was you have multiple directors across the administrative service that was being asked to provide the information. The information was being provided as they put it together, and I didn't like the way it looked. So we had the discussion to address that going forward so we don't run into that issue in the future. But like anything else, we want to make sure that we get the information correctly. Now, we did a little research. We called around to other municipalities, and we wanted to find out how many other municipalities who have a strong mayor form of government, have this type of arrangement. And we found that Providence, Pawtucket, Warwick, and Newport have the same identical situation that we have here in East Providence as far as the way the council interacts with the members of the administrative service. And it should be noted, very importantly, that the provisions in this charter regarding the council interacting with members of the administration have not changed from the way it used to be under the council manager form of government. Nothing's changed. It's still the same. The provisions as far as you had to go to the city manager office back in the day, where now you have to go to the mayor's office. So there's no change in regards to that particular aspect. And in our charter, just like in the other charters of these other municipalities, there are provisions. For instance, the council has a great responsibility to monitor the government. If for some reason I were not to provide the information that you needed, if I was to stonewall you on every request, you absolutely have the power to put together a vote, a resolution, and create a subpoena and subpoena people in. Now, that would never happen with me. I'm not looking to deny people information. We've actually gone through extraordinary steps to try to have council members come in and meet with us so that they can sit down with department heads and learn more information. I look at us as really what we should be a team. You're the boots on the ground. You're getting a lot of information from constituents who reach out to you. Now you reach out to our office once you get that information, and we try to act on it in an expedient manner. Now, having spoken to the various department heads who are currently part of this administration and were part of previous administrations, they find it to be a breath of fresh air having this type of format in place. And as I go from place to place, one part of the city to the other part of the city, I get nothing but positive reviews on how the city feels that the government's operating for the first 8 months. They love the fact that we were being very transparent. They love the fact that we came up with the Open Gov so people can see our budget. They love the fact that these meetings are very professional. They love everything about how the council and the mayor's office are interacting. Now, I think it's premature, very premature for us as a city to put in a charter change for a vote to come up this year on something that really hasn't been vetted out, something that really could bring us back, roll back the clock to where we were before November 2017. Do we want to go back to that? No. I'm willing to even look at this draft, and if there's some language that needs to be modified or looked at, we sent it out to the council, the two council members, looking for some input. I really didn't get much input, other than they wanted to eliminate several provisions of it, which would have been like 3 or 4 lines in it. But this is where we're at today. My goal as the mayor is to be the leader of this city as the executive. I execute the will of the council. The council establishes laws, ordinances, and the budget, and they control a lot by the budget. My job is to execute what you put in place. That's my job. And just wanted to talk on that issue, and hopefully we'll open it for discussion.
Pleasure of the council.
I'll start if I can. I don't think I provided any feedback on the memo, Mr. Mayor. I do think that the meeting that we had was productive. I was glad that we had the opportunity to have both yourself and Councilman Morado and Mark to participate in that. I thought, upon reading this memorandum, that it did a pretty good job of capturing what we discussed. I know that on our side, there are concerns about having access to the information that we need. I know that on your side, if I'm speaking of sides, there are concerns about being able to be prepared, not having a pop-up request the day before for someone being on vacation, and then that snowballs, et cetera, type of thing. I feel that at very least, this memorandum is a very good start to helping us close the book on this particular chapter of the new city governance in East Providence. And I do know, in speaking with Councilman Morado, and I think Councilman Morado, this is more or less the same conversation that I had with you when we talked about this. I do know that I believe that Councilman Morado maintains concerns. I want to make sure that his concerns, as well as the concerns of the larger council, are met. I think with regard to what has been proposed in terms of this memo, and I just saw the form. Mark did send it a few days ago, but I only just now pulled it up. To me, I think this is responsive, and this is my perspective.
Thank you, Councilman.
If I may, the only difference that I see here, or I would have to question, is the very last paragraph of number 5. If the member of the administration service does not have an answer to a particular question at the time of a meeting, they shall obtain and provide it to the council member prior to a subsequent council meeting. The only concern I would have with that is that I or we have constituents that we have to answer to. Given this time span, it will be additional 2 more weeks before we get an answer to a constituent. I would like to see that answer come forth a lot quicker than that. So
I agree. Listen, I agree
so
with you.
If I have a question or concern, which I've had in the past that you and I've talked about, I need to respond to those constituents. I don't want to take an additional week or 2 weeks to have an answer that possibly can be answered the following day or within a 24-hour period.
I agree with you on that, and I think that's a logical change to that memorandum. I think that, Mark, are we taking notes? That's a logical change. I mean, it says prior to the next council meeting. I think it should be as soon as practical, within a couple of days. Well, we could change the language to be more responsive. I think the reason they put that down is they want to get you the answer before the next council meeting, and then you can decide whether or not you want to have them come back or you're satisfied with the answer that you received. But you're right. We can make that actually be a little bit more narrow in time frame. Not a problem.
Mr. President, to kind of piggyback on that, I think this refers to council meetings per se. Mm-hmm. So what can we do? You say, as you said, Mayor, we have boots on the ground. So I'm hearing from a constituent about and a lot of the council stuff is boring but necessary, sidewalk problem, street, a pothole, fix this field, do that. Now, by waiting to only address that during a council meeting means, I have to say to that constituent, okay, well, we just had our meeting, I'll get back to you in about 3 weeks or something. So, if we can refine some language that allows us, and let's face it, the poor guy that's going to get the brunt of this is right here tonight. DPW is the heart and soul of most cities, so Steve Kudo and I, been trying to be good about, I don't bother him anymore. I think I did the first week, gave him a couple of phone calls, but that's fine. We go through the mayor's office, but people want information. They don't want to have to wait. Like tonight, we're meeting. Now, we happen to be meeting September 3rd, but we're on a summer schedule. If we weren't meeting for another 3 weeks or 2 solid weeks, there's some time there where people are saying to us, well, I called my councilman or my councilwoman and, they didn't get back to me. Now, I know there's common sense we've got to use, and like you said, as soon as practicable.
Yeah.
So we got to find some magic clause to add to this.
Well, Councilman, I don't disagree with that either. I think when we wrote this MOU, it was more to address ordering people into the council.
Right.
But all along, just to clarify, all along, Mark has been our point of contact. We created a specific email address because what was happening was we were getting people emailing certain employees in the mayor's office, and that person could have been on days off, vacation, sick, whatever it was, and we felt like we weren't getting a quick enough response to the council. So what we did is we created an email address that it's mayorsoffice@cityofeastprov.com, and that goes to 3 people in the office, so that makes sure that if 2 of them are not here, at least one of them is going to see it. And one of those people is me, because I like to know what's going on. I like to know what's going on in our city, what issues are impacting our residents, and how can we get them quicker service. We absolutely, positively would do everything to, we can add that in there if you need to add that in language. I don't think it's ever been an issue because we are here to work on behalf of our constituents, which are your constituents. And when you bring an issue to us, we deal with it as fast as we can.
So as far as you're concerned, if I call you, one of my concerns is Pierce Stadium and getting some repairs done there, and we've gotten half of it done. So if I call you, you don't have any problem in, you're not going to tell me you got to wait till the next council meeting?
No. Matter of fact, I would prefer, and I've said it before, I prefer to have regular communications with the council when you have issues like that. We'll make sure we get on it. And I got to give a lot of credit to the department heads who work for the city. As most of the people in the community, and when I came in, I adopted many of these department heads. I wasn't looking to get rid of anybody, and they've been very responsive. I mean, Steve Kutu's here. I praise him every chance I get because you're right. He takes the brunt of it. He has a big department. But I also realize that these guys are busy. They've got a lot of stuff going on. And if let's say Steve Kudo was getting pulled in 5 different directions, plus 6 different directions, that's not good for city governance. That's why it's important that there's one point of contact. I believe in the chain of command. I mean, that's my life was in law enforcement, and there was always a chain of command. We didn't have, different people going directly to employees.
Okay, so I don't know where to begin, but I have to reiterate what I've been saying for the past few months now. Okay, so I'm going to try not to beat this too much. Okay. You are correct. The language that is in the charter that the previous charter commission put together is the same language that has been in the charter since the 50s, okay, when the charter was adopted, which, again, it's a question I've been bringing up since January or February. So what changed? Nothing. Same language. You mentioned that, you contacted some other municipalities. And as I've mentioned in other council meetings, we took a sample of 20 municipalities: Little Compton, Smithfield, Coventry, Situate, Westerly, Burrillville, Barrington, Narragansett, Woonsocket, Hopkinton, North Providence, Middletown, North Smithfield, Bristol, East Greenwich, Gloucester, Pawtucket, New Shoreham, Johnson, and Warren. And every single one of those departments allowed department heads to attend meetings, every single one of them. In fact, Pawtucket has language in their charter that that the department heads want to be at meetings. For example, if there's an ordinance that they feel that the council's about to pass and they don't feel it's productive, or in meeting with the views of the city or whatnot, they have an opportunity to speak on behalf of it. So with that said, this MOU that we discussed, in all fairness, I don't think it was presented in a timely manner where we had time to look and review what was presented to us. The spirit of what we discussed, I don't believe is exactly portrays what's on this memo. For example, that first line that you mentioned, a form that must be available to members of the council created by the mayor's office. In all due respect, if we're going to sign onto a contract, should we not know what that memo looks like? And it has to be, and it further states, it has to be submitted and completed in its entirety. What if we miss one of those items? Will our request get denied? So there's a lot of holes there. There's a lot of what ifs. And as I've said before, this council has always taken the position that we want to send questions ahead of time. We want that department head to know what is going to be discussed, and we welcome that, because my feeling is that sending those questions ahead of time, we're actually going to get more productive answers, and there may be some other additional information that perhaps we didn't think of. And we've always been in that position. We are not here to ambush the department heads. We do not need every department head to attend these meetings as in the past. We only want department heads per request, and we have been denied. I've been denied without an explanation as simple of a department head not showing up, for example. So it's nice to have departments here when, it's cherry-picked, but there's other important issues that I feel are important to each and every one of us on the council, that sometimes we need answers. We've tried the question and answer form through email communication, and that whole process just got convoluted so quickly. I had to color code my previous questions and the new answers because I lost track. It's like sending a signal to Mars and waiting for an answer to come back, a few days later. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, yes, there are certain topics or conversations that could be done in private, but the public deserves to know how things are being put together, how ordinances are being developed. Simple discussions on an ordinance, which I like to do, and I started doing this after the police ordinance. I like to now have discussions first before we go to first passage. I like to hear from my fellow council members what they feel about an ordinance that I'm thinking about proposing for first passage and getting their feedback. And in that process, I feel it's very important to have that department head here to perhaps share a different viewpoint, or perhaps one of my council members here have a different question or a different perspective that I'm not looking or seeing. Okay, that is the importance of transparency. It's not done behind closed doors. And I'll use that example of when we started discussing budget format and simplifying the budget so every citizen can read the budget. If it wasn't for one of another council member, I'm not a finance person. I would have never known that balancing the city's budget on an Excel spreadsheet is not something you do. I would have never known that, but someone else picked up on it. So working together with the council, getting answers. I don't know if I can speak for any council member up here, but I do get frustrated sometimes when we don't get those answers. And I'm not talking about I'm waiting for an answer, the minute I sent the question up. I'm talking about examples such as requesting to know what the outcome of the architect was for Riverside Square, not getting one response, okay? We talk about working together with the council, but since you brought that up, let's just bring up 2 points. So I think it's disrespectful, and I do not want to minimize the resolution for Mr. Rock. I feel that he does deserve it. But we, as a council, should not find out about potential votes on resolutions and press releases when we haven't been advised of or given an opinion or an opportunity to vote on a resolution. I don't feel as a council that we should find out that Riverside Square is, they finally moved forward with the grant and the architects looked at that through a press release. I don't feel that's working together. The language that I have proposed for that resolution, it's very simple. It required the attendance of any department or division head of the administration upon written notice to the mayor at any regular or special meeting of the city council to assist the council in legislative and or oversight functions on any item or topic on the agenda of the city council. We are not looking to direct department heads. I don't know about the rest of the council, but I have a full life of a full-time job. I don't care about the running of the administration of this building. We all got elected to get results. We made promises to ourselves, whether it be in a campaign platform or to residents that we talked to, that we are going to try to fix items or, improve each of our wards. And it's been pretty evident, and I don't want to get on that wire issue again, but it's pretty evident that a simple wire drop took that much effort and conversation for months, which, by the way, I'm stepping back from it in respect to letting the architects decide, where the best place for that placement wire would be. So that memo, in fairness to this council, was not presented in a time manner where we could analyze and have a dialogue. It was presented at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and there simply was just not enough time to talk about that. The memo that was provided to the council before actually gave a little bit more, right for us to actually ask a department head to attend a meeting. And that memo kind of took that previous memo even back further. And the other question I would like to ask, I've been thinking about this, if none of us here or the mayor has the right to supersede the charter, okay, and the claim has always been that only following the charter as far as council interactions, this long conversation that we've been having. So how does a memo or an ordinance supersede the charter? Is that possible? If I can't, if we as a council can't pass an ordinance saying, okay, this language that's in this, that I just read, that's in that resolution, will be now an ordinance, would that not be a violation of the charter? Therefore, would a memo from the mayor not be the same? How does that supersede the charter?
Well, a memo from the mayor is just a memo. Right? It's not binding on anyone. It's just his interpretation. But the council cannot pass an ordinance that's inconsistent with the charter. Nor can the mayor take an action that would be inconsistent with the charter.
So then, would that any MOU that we agree upon, would that not be in conflict of?
No, because this is trying to clarify the unique relationship between the council and a new elected form of government, being the mayor, strong mayor council form of government. So, there is a little growing pain going on here, and, the solicitor's in the middle of this because he's the guy who's got to interpret the charter. But at the end of the day, there is a difference in government from a city manager, which the council really ran roughshod, or, they had the control over the city manager. That was your appointee. And there was obviously a natural affinity for the city manager to jump through hoops to make sure that you guys were getting the information that you wanted and being responsive. And and if you, I'm not saying you because none of you were here, a couple of you were here, but if you said, I want this done, I want the sidewalk paved, well, the city manager did it because he was afraid that he wouldn't have his job because you guys had the control over whether he or she was appointed the city manager next time. That's been now removed because we have a directly elected mayor. And now who every department head answers not to the council, but to the mayor. And the proof of the strong mayor is, and I'm not taking sides, I'm just telling you what the law is and what the charter is. The proof of a strong mayor form of government is that, other than my position, you do not approve any department head that the mayor appoints. And the reason why you do that is because those people answer to the mayor. And he's charged with running the day-to-day operations of this government. So if they screw up, if they didn't do the culvert that the Councilman Souza wanted, or do something wrong, or the audit, they're fired by the mayor. They're not fired by you. And so it's the mayor who ultimately has responsibility to run the administrative services. Now, that's a change. That's a huge change in the form of government that we had. And I respect the growing pains that we have here, but that's the change that the voters approved. And, go ahead, sorry.
But wouldn't the city manager have that same powers as well?
No.
Why?
To fire
department head.
Yeah, because they were answering, because they have the power to do so, but they were restrained by doing so because they answer to you. Right? So if the city manager decided to fire a department head that you liked, I'm not saying you personally, but the council, and you say, well, whoa, why are you firing this guy? You're going to fire this guy?
But I'm referencing just the fact that they have the power to do so, regardless of what the circumstances are. They have the power to do so, or they had the power to do so.
They had the power to do so,
but
they were
to the council or not. They had the power to do so.
They had the power to do so, but you can't underestimate the institutional structure in that city manager, even though they had the power to do so, ultimately answered to this city council. And where the mayor currently answers directly to the people who elected him or her. So there is no more check and balance as far as the city council or the city manager being afraid to get rid of a department head because he or she may lose his job if he got rid of a department head that maybe the council was receptive to or liked. We don't have that any longer.
No, I understand that aspect, but when you first made the statement, you said the city manager did not have the power to fire the department head.
They did, but it was always influenced by the fact that the city manager ultimately answered to the city council, and that was an automatic restraint on the city manager's power. So I'm sorry, to get back to your question, the rules, this memorandum of understanding is really just to figure, my recommendation was to make sure that it's binding upon the city council and the mayor is to adopt it in part of your rules, and you have the power under the charter to set your own rules of procedure, and that's what we're doing.
So with that memorandum, could that at any point each side say, oh, I don't, if that's not working out, I don't want to follow that anymore?
I mean, the council could say, it's not working out, and we're going to do something different.
So what's to say that in a month from now, we're not having to see, the same arguments after signing a memorandum?
I can't answer to what would happen for a month from now, but I think both sides, both the legislative branch and the executive branch, have a inherent duty and goal to make sure that it works.
Okay. I want to end with this because I don't want to beat this anymore. There's two different branches of government in the city. You have administrative and you have legislative. The mayor should not be meddling in our legislative duties as we do not meddle in the mayor's administrative duties. The tool that I'm requesting in that charter, special ballot, is a tool that I find very necessary in this council to do its job, okay, and do it correctly. Okay, I'll use the example that I've used before. You put a stop sign in a whatever intersection, and you put up for first passage. Second passage comes along, and a citizen has, in public comment, wants questions answered on it. And if this mayor feels that department head, simply will not show up that day for that second passage, so we will be stuck again with, we'll take your questions down, Mrs. Jones, and hopefully get an answer for you at the next council meeting. So can you please come back at the next council meeting, and we'll just hold this process up. Okay, that's just a very small example. This passing, there's nothing difficult. We as a council didn't even get the opportunity to at least show that we're not the previous council, that we keep paying for their sins, okay, per se. We keep paying for the previous council, whatever way they berated or act. Okay, this council has proven that we're not that council. Okay, we weren't even given that opportunity to prove ourselves. Okay, and to say, oh yeah, look, we have all these department heads up here. That's fine, but again, we can't cherry pick who we want to come up when we want to come up, because the smaller issues may not be important to the administration, but it's important to the legislative branch of government. And that's what's important to keep in mind here. Two separate powers, plain and simple.
So,
I'm sorry. Can I reply to what
Sure.
Councilman Morado just said? All right. So, in effect, what Councilman Morado would like to do, if you read the language, it would require that he could put a request to me every time there's a council meeting and require every single department head to appear and sit here in front of him. That could actually happen under this charter change. It would just allow him the ability, the power to order my department heads to show up. So let's say Councilman Morado or somebody else was not pleased with the results of something that happened. Maybe he had something he wanted done, and it didn't happen quick enough for him or in a timely fashion, or we couldn't get it done for him for whatever reason because we had other plans. He could then require that department head to show up here, keep him here till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, every time there's a council meeting, and never actually ask him a question. He could just require that. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but that's what the charter change would allow him, is the ability to do that and to interfere in the administrative service. Now, I have said, and I can get copies of the emails that I sent out to everybody, and to the city employees and to the council, that from day one, any docketed items that you would have on the docket that you needed information on, we were going to have the person available. So, for instance, if you have something that's to do with a new ordinance, what are you looking for? Here's the ordinance information. A docket item might be innocuous. It doesn't really give all the information you're looking for. So give me the question that you're looking for on this particular ordinance. What do you want to answer? All right, give me that stuff. Budget. I mean, we've been working on a budget. The last 2 weeks, we've been having budget meetings with every single one of our members, going through line by line by line on a budget, cutting as much as we can because we know we have some serious bills to pay, putting those budgets together. We're going to come here, present it to the council, and every person who's involved in putting that budget together will be here to testify on behalf of that budget, the people who are involved. There are sometimes people who may have an answer for you that may not be a department head. I mean, it could be a lower level employee. It could be a division head. The other thing, the Pawtucket ordinance, we looked into that. The Pawtucket ordinance actually gives department heads the power to appear at a council meeting if they so choose to. So, in other words, you can't deny, like, let's say there was an item that was being spoken about, and a department head wanted to come up and clarify the issue to offer his input. You cannot deny a department head to come up here and speak on the particular issue. So that's what that Pawtucket ordinance actually does, which is actually not a bad idea. But they still have the requirements that everybody else have. They still have the same requirements as us. Look, I don't want to I want to keep the note positive. We're making some positive strides in the city. Later on, this council is going to be looking at a purchase and sales agreement for the Oddfellows house, a home that's been vacant for over 20 years. We took office. I sat down with Dave Bacharach and I said, listen, we got to get this thing rolling. And he started working on that thing. Now we have a purchase and sales agreement that's going to be up for you to sign and agree on, hopefully today, which will then take a blighted property off our hands and turn into something spectacular for our community. So we're trying to do positive things. The waterfront's developing. This is all because of your input in us being able to do what we have to do as the executive branch without any type of interference or slowdown. But anyways, listen, I leave it in your hands, Council. I made my point. If that doesn't make sense, what I'm asking, it doesn't. I think it'd be a sad thing for our community for us to have a special election that's going to cost us about $15,000 or it could be less. I'm not sure if it's $10,000, $15,000. But worse than that would be the fact that you're not even giving this an opportunity to work. You're not giving us the chance to show and manifest itself 8 months in because you didn't get your way on something, and now you're going to come up and do this kind of thing. But anyways, all right. Any further questions, Councilwoman?
Yes, so before you go off, it's not really a question, more of a comment and suggestion. So on number 3, the form shall be submitted no later than 4 days prior to the posting of the docket. So the docket's posted on a Friday. That would mean roughly Monday or so to get that information. I think that's a little bit too long of a time, too soon of a time, only because, again, some of us have full-time jobs that are long hours. As the city clerk can attest, sometimes my items don't get emailed to her till 48 hours prior to the due date, or maybe 24 hours. So sending an additional email, and I just think 4 days is a little bit much, personally. And the reason why is so questions, so if it's regarding, say, finances, our finance director is a very intelligent man, has been doing this for quite some time, not only in our city, but a career. I'm sure he's well-versed in a lot of the stuff, if not everything, in his department, that he could answer pretty much any question. Same with most of the other departments. If a department head can't answer a question kind of off the top of his head with a 4 days notice and needs 8 days notice, I'd be a little concerned that they don't know what's going on in their department.
I'll give you an example. The question could be anything. So you could be asking about a particular issue. For instance, Councilman Morado asked for some information on vehicles, all right? So there was multiple different department heads involved in that. It took way too long to get that information, but it was because we found that there was a breakdown in the system that we were using to get that information. So it was no fault of our own, but we got that information. It took a little bit longer than expected. I just want to make sure that we have enough time to give people the sufficient amount of time. Here's why. So the council docket.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but in reference to that vehicle request that the councilman asked for, so we have a fleet manager, one person, who's mandated with charge of all the fleets of those city vehicles. So if that's his job and has been so for umpteenth years, because I've requested in previous years, I think it was last year or maybe my first year, and do ask yearly for that information. He doesn't need 3 weeks' notice, and he gets it to me, or the manager had gotten it to me pretty quickly, and it wasn't very difficult. It was very detailed. So maybe what you or the mayor's office wants to provide the council is not necessarily what the council is looking for. I think we're looking for just an overall information, and I think you're trying to make it, or might be, I don't want to be presumptuous, but you might be trying to cherry pick what you're sending, or maybe that's why the questions are being sent.
I take umbrage to that statement. I'm not cherry picking anything.
Not cherry, maybe that's the wrong word for it, but you want to digest the question, or the office,
Actually, the issue with this last request was I didn't feel we had sufficient information. We didn't have enough information. And I went back and I was like, hey, where's the rest of this information? If you look at the email request, it's very plain what we're looking for here. And the information was not there. So what I did is I went back and we actually had a meeting to sit down so everyone would be on the same page. That's all. I'm not blaming any particular person, but there were several different people involved in obtaining the information.
And I have no idea what that email looked like, or will presume to. But in terms of legislative questions, so you said that you want information. If we're doing an ordinance, you guys want to research the questions to let the person know. I don't see what the issue is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm looking to put an ordinance, say a safety ordinance, and I'd like to speak to people in the police department, why should I have to go through multiple chains to get some research, if I'm doing some research on it? Because then it becomes, to me, that your office is interfering in my legislative duties. I'm trying to do stuff for legislation, but the office has to be involved in that legislative process.
Well, the only step you would have to go through would be through the mayor's office. So here's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid
But that feels like you're babysitting me. So I have to call the office to say, can I call such and such department to ask them some questions? I feel as an elected official equal to you, who's also elected official, that I should be able, as a citizen no less, be able to talk to other people in the community that are employed. I'm not asking them to do anything. I'm not going out of my scope as a council person. I think that memo that you sent out to the citywide right after inauguration kind of felt, I don't know how the rest of the council felt, but a little bit of a gut hit saying, don't talk to council members. If If they call you, call us immediately, because I've had situations where I've called to ask about grants, and I can't talk to you. You have to call the office first to get then connected to me. That's a little childish
The point
in
is
my...
not childish.
It is to me,
Let me-
as a grown adult
Right.
who's an elected official, that I can't talk to you. I have to talk to your boss to then come talk to you.
Yeah,
Commission.
so you need to follow chain of command if you want the city governance to operate in a functional and efficient manner.
Well, I
For
think we need
instance,
to work
let's say,
together.
yes, we do. So for
Because
instance,
chain of command, right? There was a press release and a resolution for naming that didn't follow the chain of command.
but
Did it not?
the mayor, look, I announced that I would be asking the council for a resolution to change the name of the senior center to the Robert E. Rock Senior Center. I said that I would be asking the council. That's exactly what it says in the press release. And that's what I did. I reached out to every single council member and asked them, hey, would you support changing the name of this to the Robert E. Rock Senior Center?
But doesn't that put us in a predicament at that point? You already let the cat out of the bag. I mean, what difference is it at that point that we pass a resolution or not?
I think it was something important to mention. I felt that the man deserved the honor, and that's what I did. Now,
So
are we
through
talking
the chain of command,
Are we
you
talking?
should go through the resolution process where we have a legislative process. You see, you got to understand.
So, Councilman Rado, you're not going to be able to control. Listen, you can't control what the mayor's going to say.
Both
what
of you
he's gonna
speaking
say.
at the both times, so if we can just allow one person to talk.
So, look, to your concern, if you need something, it comes through our office. I want to avoid situations like have happened in other communities. We had something happen in Providence where jokingly or purposely there was a councilman dealing with a department or a city administration official, and he went back and forth with some text messages that are now of major concern, and it calls into credibility that council person and that employee. We want to avoid that. Now, there's nothing wrong if you want to do an ordinance on a safety issue. You should I would think, you should want to get the data ahead of time so you can look at it ahead of time and digest it ahead of time before you go forward with your data. So let's say you say, look, I want to find out about this intersection. I want to put a stop sign out here. I want the police department here. So the police department shows up. Now, if you email us and say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, we'll get you all that data. We'll send it to you. You may look at the data and say, wait a minute, there was one accident in 4 years here. Do I really need a stop sign? You may change your mind and decide, I'm not going to put this on the docket. It's useless. I don't need it. So it's important for me to get you the information you need to do your job. But it should go through the mayor's office.
Thank you, Mayor.
I was going to say one last point, and I have to say this. I take offense to that last statement that because there was, I wasn't satisfied with one issue, I didn't get an answer on one issue. That is incorrect. This is a multiple issues that we've had issues with. So this is not because I didn't get my way with one item, okay? And again, I will reiterate, separation of power, equal but separate. So I'll leave it at that.
Mr. President, any questions?
I have no.
Just try to wrap it up from my point of view. We have this draft, and I know Councilman Morado, you felt, and maybe rightly so, it came in, 5:30 Wednesday. We know it had to be posted Thursday or Friday. So if we could continue to work with this, maybe as Councilwoman Souza said, that 4 days could maybe be 2 days, I don't know. If we send you as mayor some recommendations, and let's try to work with this. I think it's fair to say that we as a council would like to be able to have department heads come to a meeting for a specific question and reason, and I'm asking you publicly, you're not opposed to that as mayor, right?
No.
Okay, so you're on record, you're not opposed to that. Maybe as a compromise, we could put language that said we won't ask more than 2 or 3. So as you said earlier, we could potentially have every department head in the city come here all the time. And that's not good.
I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It hasn't happened.
I don't think that's the issue. I mean, and I've always said this. You look at the the docket and what's on the docket, and you could determine at that point in time, at the request of a council person, whether or not you would requesting a department head to be there. So, I said this from day one, and I've said this last year as well, that you don't need every department here for every meeting.
Right.
Unfortunately, the burden falls on Mr. Kudu because 80% of the issues and problems and concerns that we have in the city deals with infrastructure. And I've always said that he's got his fingers on the pulse. I don't think anybody's going to, stump Mr. Kudu on anything because he knows what goes on as far as projects are concerned in the city. He knows every bit of it. But I don't think we need every department head here. I think we take a look, and although there's something on the docket, you might not need a department head to be there as well. But other times, at the request of a council person, I think they should.
And I think it makes sense, and we're all pretty cautious and considerate of people who've come up. So if there's something on the docket, we will move them up out of consideration because, just like we did with the school, because we know that they already had a long day of work, and this is just an additional hours added on to their day, and just because we're up here doesn't mean that they have to be up here as long as we do. So moving them up so we can get them out is always this council's motto so far. So I don't, I think that that's a little bit helpful. But I have no further.
Mr. President, I just want to finish off by saying thank you for allowing me to come up here and speak to you. I hope that you consider this memo of agreement with the changes that you guys have suggested. We'll definitely put that in there, and we can have that to you for the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, may we proceed? We conclude the mayoral communications. With that being said, we'll get to public comment.
Public comment. The first person for public comment is Michelle Silva, and the topic is rats.
What was the topic? I mean,
rats.
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 Rats. Thank you. I'm here because I have a question regarding rats. It appears, I've been informed, or, it's been talked about that it's been a problem for a little bit. I don't know if anyone's noticed the roadkill lately, but it's been an issue in our area. Code enforcement came out, and we're basically on our own, but other cities have a rat program, and I've been informed that they're letting loose because of the construction, things that are being, disrupted, and we have yet to go through other constructions, the Henderson Bridge, we have yet to knock down the high school. So is there a program in place? Are we on our own, or has anybody looked into it, or is anybody aware of it? I mean, because we've literally battled them for the past couple of weeks, so much so now we have bunny rabbits. But it's not easy, and it's disgusting.
Whereabouts do you live, ma'am?
I live on Mary Avenue. Okay. And I've been told they've been moving from Taunton to Waterman, whatever. Like I said, if you see the roadkill, you know where they are.
It's been an issue in the city.
Talk about it.
Well, we've addressed it. Councilwoman Souza has mentioned it in the past in a council meeting. I have mentioned it as well. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the mayor's office is working with putting some type of program together. I know in the city of Pawtucket, and that was something we were trying to mimic at one point in time. But we do have, was it the Housing Authority?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement, not so much was it code enforcement? Minimum housing. I know he was working on it. I know when I had a constituent, because you said, especially during the construction time, when all the underground vibration going on, they're scattered, they're out, and I had a lot of that issues and problems in Ward 1 as well at one point in time. I haven't received any complaints lately. I know when there was a concern, the minimum housing inspector was out and on it, and he was just working with the public, notifying them and letting them know that, these are the steps that you need to take as well. Don't leave your garbage open. Don't put garbage in the back.
Somebody
don't leave the
did
bins
come out
open.
and answered my concern. He was helpful. Yeah. Everything was in order. So it's like, okay, if we got everything in order on this end, what do we do next? Do we somebody needs to be aware of this, because it's not a pretty sight when you're sitting in your backyard. And I've been there for 17 years.
So I think in conjunction with the mayor's office that we can come up with something. It's an ongoing problem that we've had. It's not only on Mary. It's you know, I've had quite a few people who was concerned about this issue early on, several months ago, a number of months ago, I should say.
That's what I'm learning. They're like,
and I don't know if they're just being pushed out of one area and into another area, but I haven't had any of those calls or concerns lately, to be quite frank with you. But I think we can work in conjunction. I think we can work in conjunction.
No, I mean,
the neighbors don't want to talk about it, that they have rats, but I did a door knock.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've had calls from multiple residents in Ward 2, and a lot of construction happens in Ward 2, and has with the bridges, and just recently, you know, some of the street paving has maybe ruffled up some noise that's making them blow out. We have an issue on John Street recently with neighbors complaining.
Yeah.
So I think they're just, you know, migrating, they're finding a place to go, and we keep digging up and tearing down.
I understand
I can't
that.
imagine when the waterfront starts getting developed, what that's going to do to the city in terms of displacing wildlife. I mean, we don't like the rats, but they are creatures in the environment that we were here probably long before us. Not that it makes it better. We don't want them in our backyard.
No.
Clearly, and it's something that I guess we'll continuously work on to help the community. I don't know if there's a one answer that's going to fit all to eradicate them as a whole, but we will do our best to.
I just want to make somebody aware.
Yeah.
Please help.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, please.
Next person up for public comment is Mark Furtado. There are two issues that he's signed up for. The first is traffic control. The second is notification of members of the administration present to speak on docket items.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening, Mr. Furtado.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I noticed that traffic control was on the docket, Councilwoman, and I had already spoken to Vice President Rodriguez about it, but it's very early in the works, but I've started with some language on trying to codify it into an ordinance, just because it's kind of, and the city solicitor can attest to this, it's pretty all over the place as far as like the appointment process goes. We have, and if you want later on I can go into more detail, but we've had like our crossing guards, our traffic control. Both of these were established in separate resolutions that go back
98.
Well,
That's been amended multiple times.
Yes, but the original one was 91 for traffic control, but that relates to special police officers.
Correct.
And the whole problem with that came from a lawsuit, which is why we no longer have special police officers. So that's led to a sticky situation in regards to that. So we don't really have real enabling language when it comes to that situation. So if that's a direction you want to go to and help work on an ordinance with any other member of the council, we'd be more than happy to do that. But we really want to make sure that we get something on the books just for safety purposes and legal purposes too. And my next item is really just to let you know that for the fleet management topic, when that comes on later on, that our fleet manager is here, Bill McMahon. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Furtado. Do we have any other for public comment at this time?
We have Ken Goucher
Mr. Goucher?
to speak on food truck on Warren Avenue.
Hi, I'm Ken Goshen. I live on Brown Street. At the intersection of Brown and Warren Avenue, there's a Valley Towing right that next block over, not even half a block away. Well, Valley Towing has a food truck in front of it. It seems to me every time Valley Towing does a repair, they park their vehicles from the food truck up to Brown Street. There's going to be a big accident one of these days because you cannot see to get out onto Warren Avenue. I've talked to a lot of people in the area, and they all say the same thing. I mean, if I have to go get a petition to maybe have no parking signs put right there, just for those 4 cars that park there, I think that would be a good answer to this problem. Every morning when I go out there, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they're already parked up to Brown Street. That's all I'm saying. It's nothing against the food truck. I've taken pictures where they got campers parked in front of the food truck up towards Brown Street. They put pickup trucks with tinted windows. You cannot see. So I recommend no parking sign and the police enforce it. Thank you.
Mr. Councilman Rogers, didn't you request that the police look into that, one of them?
You're supposed to look at it, excuse me, you're supposed to look into it 2 months ago when I was here before on the same issue.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we got feedback on it. I also agree, I didn't like the idea of the big truck right there was blocking your view as you're driving out of Brown Street, and we get a lot of traffic when school's in session. School buses, Martin Middle School. And I think, trying to remember, Councilman, I think the chief might have been here at the time, and we were going to look into that, and so we'll speed that up, and we'll get more of a report. I don't like the idea of food trucks and peddlers and people all over the city anyway. I think it's, hurting some of the businesses who already exist and are paying taxes. That's another issue. But I'll see if we can get to the bottom of that.
Just open it up a little bit.
Open it, move it, yeah.
Like I said, I don't mind the food truck. You might. It's not my business.
Yeah, no, I don't have a big problem.
My business is safety, getting out of that street.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this goes back to when we were approving the licenses.
Right.
And how last year we were a little bit more specific in the licensing where you had to give up to 10 locations. And it's for this exact reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your food truck is stationary in a certain location, but it poses a safety risk in the community or a nuisance in the community, then at the discretion of the council and the police chief, that license would or that owner would have to move the vehicle or be displaced. And so with that list, we would be able to say, you know what, it's a busy road, it's at the corner of a street, it's going to be a safety issue. Could you please put it somewhere else? We don't approve that specific location. And it's for that reason that we amended this ordinance for the peddlers to make that point so that it wasn't an issue for the community.
However, as Councilman Cahoon mentioned earlier tonight, up to 10 could mean 1. I'd almost like to see us someday change it. I hate to keep changing all these ordinances, but maybe it says 3 or more or something, Yes, Mike?
I just want to chime in a little bit. So as of December 31st, the city has to adopt a whole set of ordinances governing just food trucks by state law. So the state has mandated that we pass separate ordinances regarding mobile, they call them mobile MFEs, mobile food establishments. And they set out general criteria of what the city can and cannot do. One of the things that a city can do is limit where they are located, not necessarily by street,
right,
but perhaps by zone. Like, you might not want them in a residential zone or whatever. So that's something we're going to be working on. We've got to get that done by 12/31. The only reason why we're going under the hawkers and peddlers license now for these food trucks is that that's the only thing that we have that governs this. But we're going to have a whole new regulatory scheme that I'm going to ask the council for input on and hopefully get a draft to you early before 12/31 so we can work on it. But that's mandated by the state, and that's something we have to update our ordinances anyway.
Can the city limit the number of licenses that it issues?
I believe we can, as well as the hours of operation as well. There are certain things that we can regulate, and there are certain things that we can't. And I don't know the exact breakdown off the top of my head, but I'll be happy to share a memo with you that I got from the state.
We're off topic. I didn't mean to drive us.
That's fine.
That's okay.
So the other thing that I just wanted to mention in regards to that comment is I've noticed, and maybe, again, DPW, could assist us is, I noticed that a lot of people, if you go throughout the community, park right up to the corner of the street. And, driving 101, right, we all learned part of the etiquette of driving is 50 feet from the corner or thereabouts. So people park right up to the stop sign, and so when you have our narrow roads, people have a hard time even getting to that corner, let alone looking around the corner to make a turn into either a main road or a side street. I know it's a lot for the police department to be going around, ticketing people for that. Maybe a marker so that there's a line that says, or a line that indicates, this is where you cannot park. You can't park past this line. Sometimes people need visual cues to remind them that that's not appropriate to park at the corner, and that might go to address that issue also on that corner on that main road.
I know the city does have those right across from the Red Bridge Tavern is one example.
Yeah.
Whether you're coming out of Summit or more importantly Walnut Street, usually those cars used to park right up to the corner, and you got half your car out into the middle of the road. So there's something to look into.
If I can make a suggestion, what Councilman Roderick said at one of the previous council meetings when we had the same discussion. As per your request, through the mayor's office, have the police department monitor that area, look at if that is a real safety concern, which it appears to be. It appears to be a blind spot for vehicles entering traffic, and getting together with the DPW and then come up with a solution, such as Councilwoman Souza has mentioned, maybe marking that off as no parking zones or something. So.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. So that concludes public comment. But before we proceed on to council members' communication, if we can, at the pleasure of the council, just jump over to the ordinance for first passage for personnel. We do have a couple of employees here from the city that would like to get them home at a reasonable time if we can. If that's okay with the rest of the council?
No, I have no objection to that.
Anyone have any objections? With that being said,
Mr. President, thank you. I was asked to sponsor the resolution, which I agreed to do, and the plan is that 2 department heads would be here, and that we might have letters also from the 3-member Personnel Hearing Board. So at this time, if I believe it's Director of HR and Director of Library want to tell us why they need to make this change. I mean, it seems like we may have inhibited the hiring of some good people, and so it was certainly worthy of discussion in my mind. So if the 2 department heads want to come forward at this time and fill us in on this.
Read the ordinance.
First passage for the vote. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 11 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Personnel, Section 11-4 and 11-31, sponsored by Council Vice President Roderick.
And if I understand, you're not changing the whole thing. We have a section here in red that we can see, and you're going to speak to that. Okay.
Good evening, City Council. My first time before you. I'm Victor Santos, your new HR Director here for the city. Thank you for allowing us to speak. I've only been in the position about 8 weeks, but one of the things that I noticed is that one of the duties of the Personnel Board, which is the only thing that we would like to propose for a change, it states on number 1 that they certify to the appointing authority employment and promotional lists. That certification process has caused in the past a hindrance in the recruitment and hiring process where, for example, there was a position posted in February in the library, and it is being filled, was filled last week. So 6 months because
after it took 2.5 months to get the board to meet, because these are volunteers and they're on vacation or they're not around. After that, they certified the list. We went back to the person to tell them they had the position. First of all, nobody would wait 2.5 months to find out if they were going to get a job. So once we notified them that they got the position, they had another job. So then we go on to the next person on the list, and 3 people later, because they all had jobs, we had to repost the position again. So go through that process all over again. Meanwhile, people are doing that vacancy's job. Maybe you have to pay overtime, so it's costing the city a lot of money. Then we have to put boards together for people to interview for that position, so that takes them away from their regular work. Also, my experience has been when we are ready to hire the person, they have to wait for the personnel board to certify them. They can't give notice. They're not going to give notice and lose their job waiting for this decision. So it just prolongs the process. Now, I could see where that maybe 10, 20 years ago maybe had some reasoning for having that. But with all the processes that I have seen in the city in place, I don't see a need for that. Why? Because, one, we have an affirmative action officer that partakes in that whole recruiting process to make sure that it's fair and equitable. We have panels comprised of various employees, not just in that department. Sometimes we will get people from other departments to get a different perspective in the oral interviews. We have contract language with the different union contracts about hiring. I mean, there's a lot. We have a requisition form that requires various signatures before we even post a position. So we've got to see if it's budgeted, the mayor approves it, it is reviewed by myself. So, I mean, there's so many mechanisms in place that I find that Personnel Hearing Board certification process to be just like a rubber stamp, I never saw them deny a certification list. I think that the other things that they have on there are warranted, and I think it should stay, and I think that the Personnel Hearing Board is effective and is needed. But for the certification process of jobs, I really see more negative than I do positive, and it is costing the city money in time and overtime. And I also got a letter, the three folks that were on the hearing board at our last meeting said that they would write letters of support. I received one, which I gave to Mark Furtado. I don't know if he included in the packet, but from the chairperson supporting that change. And so the 3 folks who were at the last board meeting was Jeanette, I should say, who is the chair, Mr. Dominic, and Mike Solo, who is the recent member. And they all said they would support that change as well.
May I just ask a question?
From the library, and he can speak to that as well.
Quickly, Mr. Santos, Nate Cahoon, we haven't met. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
A few months late, but
pleasure to be here.
Why do you think the certification process was in place to begin with? Was it to combat some inequity, or?
I think, well, I hate to use the term. I wasn't here. I can't judge. But I think 20 years ago, things were a little different in city management, not just this city, but in a lot of cities, where, a politician would pick up the phone and say, my nephew just graduated and he's looking for a job, and you put him on the top of the list.
Well, that's the only reason I could think of that it would be in place. I mean, I'm racking my brain. I can't see how it would rule out any, biases or discrimination. It just seems that's the only reason that it would be there.
I think that's so, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just don't see a need. If there was no mechanisms in place, fine. I could see, another governing body to check and balance to see if everything is okay. But with all the things in place that I've seen, I've been and I've been making an effort to be on many interviews. For example, I was on the board, not the board, but the I should say the panel, for interviewing our police officers. I was on there, and Elmer's on there, and any position such as that, I'm going to be on the board with the firefighters, with Elmer as well. I've been in, just so you know, I've been in the human resources field for 34 years. I've seen a lot. I'm not an expert, but I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of processes, and I think that what you have in place with the folks that we have in place, and I have to say, with the good staff that you have in the Human Resources Department, I think we can get this done without having that need.
I have a few questions, if I may. So, Mr. Santos, can you give me an example of what the Personnel Board would do for a police hiring process? Give me an example of what they do as far as their responsibilities in that process.
They certify the list, so...
How is that list, the steps as to that point?
Okay,
What transpires before that?
I'll tell you, because we just finished. We had an open house, we had a recruiting process for police officers. They filled out an application. Before they did the agility test, we checked off the requirements to see if everybody met the requirements, where some of them did not, about 60 did not. And about 102 went to the agility test. After the agility test, there was 31 there that did not pass the agility test. They went to the written exam. The written exam, I believe there was another 40 that didn't pass the written exam, and we interviewed, now we're ready for the interviews, and we interviewed 44 candidates. And in that interview, there was myself, there were 2 police officers, and Elmer Pina, the affirmative action officer. After all that scoring was done by each individual of us 4, a ranking was done based on 60% of the written portion and 40% of the oral. Out of that ranking, now we rank the 44 candidates.
So in that process, you have the first, and some departments may not be in this order, but you have the first of the multiple tests would be in agility.
Mm-hmm.
They're scored on that, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the Personnel Board keeps that score, correct?
No.
Oh,
No. The Personnel Board only sees the final ranking.
And then
So now we have 44 candidates, 44 potential police officers, and that list will go to the Personnel Board for certification.
I'm just trying to figure out how this municipality does it compared to others. And I've been involved in many police tests to get to where I'm at today.
And this is new to me.
So, and then the second step, oral interview scored again.
The third. That's the third. Yep.
And then there is a written exam, correct?
Yes.
The written exam is conducted by whom?
It's an outside company that we buy the exams from, and then we send those written exams to them to be graded.
So then those exams are strictly confidential and everything is done to the utmost with integrity, correct?
Yep.
Okay. The candidates are given a number.
Correct.
They're not even given a name, so
Right.
when
Nobody
they come
knows
back,
the name.
the score sheets come back, you don't know who
Right.
the candidate is.
Correct.
So then after that whole process is done, they are put on that list.
Correct.
Okay, by rank.
Correct.
Where they finish an overall score with all of those scores put together.
And if I may, Councilman, even on the oral panel, us 4 don't know each other's scores. That's all confidential.
Who puts the candidates on that list? Who puts
That
the
was
candidates
based
rank?
on the ranking of
Who
the
puts them
written
on the
and
rank, on the list now?
who's on the list. I don't have the
No,
list.
I'm saying who puts the candidates after they gather all those scores on that?
HR department.
Just the HR department?
Yes. There's no influence by the chief or anybody in the department. It's
And then-
strictly, the scoring is all done by us.
Okay, and then the last step, and this is where I'm trying to get to this point.
Mhm.
The last step is that the personnel director, or that personnel person, is it director?
Yes.
Would certify that list that the board has put together, to say this is a certified list. Is that the
No.
process?
It's the panel, it's the board that agrees. I send them, I'm going to bring at the next personnel board meeting, I'm going to bring that list that has the 44 candidates, and they're going to say, all in favor? It takes like 5 seconds. All in favor? Yes. Any questions? No. Certified. And they sign it, and I bring the list back.
So where does this language change come into?
The language is just the first thing on the top. It says, certify to the appointing authority employment and promotional list. That's the only thing we want to get rid of. Everything else stays. It says here under duties, section 11.31. I don't know if you're looking at the same.
So, Councilman, I might be able to help you.
Maybe that's it.
So, under the personnel ordinance, there's a whole testing procedure that goes forward, and the administrative staff is required to follow that. Obviously, every department is different. Police is a lot different because they have to have agility and whatnot. But the ultimate role of the personnel board, as it's currently written, is really just to certify that this is the list that's been submitted to me by HR and all the people who tested before, and that apparently that the process has been followed. That's all they're certifying to. And it really is just them calling a meeting. They don't really go in and say, I guess they could if they wanted to, well, okay, did we have the agility test, or did this person score well, or they don't even get into that. They just basically say, here's the list, Mr. HR Director, that he's presented. Did you do this properly under the ordinance? Yes. Okay, we'll certify the list. And that's all they do.
But isn't it the personnel board that puts that list together?
No, it's HR department.
And if I could interject, Councilman.
The process is like the police department.
The police department is extra crazy, but not going to say crazy, extra.
And they have no real role, but what does happen is it has to occur.
Right. Exactly. The ordinance requires that no person can be appointed as an employee of the city without being certified from that list first.
And therein the delay.
That's the delay.
Right.
I'm just looking at the integrity of the process. And I understand you say that, that was things of the past, but we had this discussion at length here about councils of the past and potential councils of the future. We don't know who is going to be in your position or anyone else's position in the future. So I'm looking at it where there's an outside look, as, for example, the integrity of the written exam and how it's conducted.
Correct.
Okay, not conducted by the person who is going to be hiring, doing the final say as to who's going to get that position. And that's what I'm trying to get at. This is not essentially, is this the same, or are we just missing a step?
No, it's
trying to streamline a step.
We're just trying to avoid the delays of a process that they really have no feedback. I mean, the decisions have been made of who's going to be hired. It's not their decision. They're just certifying our process. That's basically it. But Mike can maybe talk.
I mean, I can give a pretty good example. So when I got here, I'm actually the person that kind of set the wheels in motion on this, because when I got here, I noticed this egregious inefficiency in terms of getting people hired. So I'm trying to hire, for example, a part-time English as a second language instructor, or a part-time reference librarian, which in other workplaces, part-time worker, you advertise for the position and you hire them and they're on board, and then we avoid all the issues that Mr. Santos raised regarding those vacancies. We finish the process, we follow all of the procedures that HR has compiled. To Councilman Morato's point, it's not just Mr. Santos, but I think the city's HR department has to be professional and observe all of those EEO compliance, everything affiliated with that. Then the HR department just scores. To give background on how it works, we rank, meaning the panel that's constructed of 3 people, we rank all the interviewers. It's a 100% oral interview for the positions I've hired for in terms of ranking. And then the HR department adds the scores up for us. As Mr. Santos indicated, none of us, we're not allowed to discuss the scores with one another to prevent collusion. And then the list is presented to me as the hiring authority, and I have by ordinance the right to choose from 1, 2, or 3. I'm not allowed to do that until that list has been certified. That's the problem. And the certification of the list, as far as I could see, I've attended the meetings, is a procedural move by which the personnel board looks at it and says, okay, that list looks legitimate. They don't really have any involvement in the process itself. They don't get involved in it. They don't help me or counsel me, advise me on hiring any of those people. They just certify the list. And as Mr. Santos indicated, we had to wait a really long time for several positions, not just the one he referenced, the part-time librarian, and the really debilitating one was a part-time ESOL teacher. Because we couldn't get that up and running quickly, we had to cancel classes for our immigrants. We had to withhold social service outreach. So it's really not practicable. And as to, I think you also asked, Councilman Morado, what other municipalities might do. This is very uncommon. You know, I looked at all the municipalities in the state. I sent a memo to the mayor's office and the law department, so I have the actual numbers there. It's a super minority of communities that do this. Most don't. And I think it's just because of the inefficiency. It really slows down the process, and it hinders, therefore, city service.
What are the required qualifications to serve on the Personnel Hearing Board?
I think it's just a resident of the city. Yeah.
Okay, so they don't bring any specific qualifications that
there
would
may actually
bless the certification process.
I think the language may say something like they should be sympathetic to labor in the city. So is that right?
I don't know about that.
Wow. I mean, you'd have to check it. I think
I have no idea.
I think there
No,
might.
it is not.
I think there might be something in there.
But certainly they don't have to have Mr. Santos' 34 years experience in HR matters to be making this key decision in the hiring process, right?
Councilman,
I didn't hear you.
the other role that they do play outside of certifying the list is that they are part of the grievance procedure. So if there's a grievance that goes through the rank, they're actually, before we actually go to arbitration, they can actually hear a grievance. This personnel board rules on grievances. So that in that role, they're actually very helpful because it actually saves the city money because sometimes they resolve issues for us that don't have to go.
Well, I'm not recommending they be disbanded or anything drastic like that.
But that's really what their role really is would they serve as like a final objective board.
It's not like a tumor board where you convene a list of doctors and say, which way do we go here?
But I'm saying, like, they have the final say if there's an arbitration or a labor grievance within the city. Obviously, they're appointed outside of the normal staff, and therefore they have they don't have the final say, but they have an more objective say. But Mike's right. This other certification is really just a procedural step. And just to remind the council, this is a board of the city. They cannot meet unless their meeting is posted 48 hours in advance. So they've got to meet all the OMA requirements and everything else. So they just can't call a meeting, and we have to post the meeting. It's got to be it's got to be posted, and Secretary of State's, and we have to put the agenda up 48 hours before that meeting. So that's an additional step.
How many people are on it?
I think 5.
All right, and what happens if you got 2 on vacation, you can't get a quorum?
You need a quorum.
Wait 3 months.
We wait.
Can't have.
Okay, that sounds absurd.
Yeah, so to the actual...
So what does this do to the board?
Right, so the actual change, under Section 1131, which is the second page of it, it crosses out the fact that they certify the appointing authority, the lists. And then on the preceding page, under 11.4, duties of personnel director, number 7, to certify to the appointing authority appointment and promotion list. So it passes the certification to the personnel director, so that the procedural move can be handled by the city, and therefore it can happen effectively instantaneously. So this doesn't actually change the civil service approach that the city has. That, I mean, maybe we want to do that, but I think that would need to be done or examined more comprehensively by HR and by the city itself. That's not what's on the table here, to get rid of the civil, because we basically have a civil service model, which makes sense in some contexts. But it doesn't make, obviously, as much sense here, where we tend to hire for certain positions, and we may not, therefore, have an exhaustive list from which we're continually drawing. But that's a separate issue. So all that this does is basically, and then there's also some language on replacing city manager with mayor, because we don't have a city manager anymore. It's transferring the certification of the list to the HR director, so that can be done quickly. It doesn't actually get rid of the certification process. It's out of scope. Because I think that would have to be examined more rigorously. This is just a way to basically say, let's get the process sped up. You know, so for example, we're trying to hire one of these vacancies that we had to cancel because we didn't have any qualified candidates. We interviewed on Friday for the position. HR compiled the scored everything by the end of Friday, and we're ready to make an offer on Monday. So we could have that person working for the city next week. They're good to go.
Get notice.
Right. They have to give their notice, and we can proceed.
Excuse me, is the council ready to vote on this, or does anyone have any other questions at this point in time?
I'm ready to move to approve the language.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the
I'd
language.
second that. We asked for department head input. We have 2 department heads here. Everyone's in agreement. I would second that.
Okay, and we have a second. Roll call vote, please.
First, I want to thank for the clarification. That was very helpful.
Yeah. More than welcome. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
More than welcome. So we're going to proceed right on to, is there any other department heads here that need to come up in reference to ordinance or otherwise? If so, this will be the time to do so. Otherwise, we're going to continue on where we left off on council members' communication. Doesn't appear that way, so we're going to proceed with council members' communication under letter A.
Letter A. Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Removal of abandoned India Point Railroad Bridge discussion. Council Vice President Rodrick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief because I'm not asking for any votes tonight. I will be preparing with council assistance a resolution for the next meeting, and eventually may see some of the pictures up here. I look at the waterfront revitalization that's going on in East Providence, and I liken it to one doesn't take a shower and then put on dirty socks. We're doing a lot with our waterfront, and it's something that's been close to me for forever. And if you go to the East Providence waterfront, specifically the area of Bold Point and the East Providence Yacht Club, I do tell my friends in Point Judith that we do have a yacht club here, and other businesses. There it is now. You see some of the pictures, and I took these pictures. These are not old. These were maybe a week ago, of the old rusting, the formal name is the India Point Railroad Bridge, which half of it has already been removed. It used to turn around, a turnstile, and a train would go across between India Point Park in Providence and East Providence. The Army Corps of Engineer has said it's now a shipping hazard and it should be removed. There was a move, and I'm just fast-forwarding through notes here. There was a movement a few years ago to get rid of it. It died. I've heard that Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's office is very supportive to try to get funding. This is not anything I'm going to ask East Providence to fund. And I spoke the other evening before our East Providence Waterfront Commission. They unanimously want to send a letter of support for this resolution. The owners of the yacht club will add some dock space. And basically, and I know we're having a little difficulty here getting all the pictures up, but don't worry about it. If you can get them, you get them. But I have them all if anyone wants to see them. Well, just go there yourself. You can literally sit on the deck of the restaurant and lean over and touch the rusting bridge. It's that close. You can't see the water. In most cases, when you're sitting down, it blocks a beautiful view. And I know there's this other bridge that, what do they call it, the upright bridge, and Councilwoman Souza and I talked about this earlier, and others. There's some interest in keeping that bridge. They can keep that one. It's not near homes and property and businesses. If they want to fix that, fine. This one has no value. If it's unsafe for shipping and boating, then why is it there? And it's plain ugly, and it's unsafe. I know kids can easily walk on it, anybody can. So I'd like to, at the next meeting, bring back a resolution where we simply ask, I've been in touch with Senator Whitehouse's office. A woman there has been very supportive, and she's very eager to take the ball and have the senator run with this. She would like all the help she can get, possibly a resolution from us, the Waterfront Commission. I talked with the mayor and the mayor's office, and they're in support of this. And with the Bull Point concert area, to me, it's a win-win. There you can see, if you're sitting on that deck, there's your view. You're looking at, and there's the unsafe pilings. So it's serving no purpose, and we could easily increase some tourism. I have friends who would boat up the bay and stop there, but they feel that there's just no space. So it's a win-win all around. If you haven't been there, take a ride and look at it. I won't belabor the point tonight. I think I've sent the council pictures. There you can see how the bridge is practically going right into the business, and it's just serving no purpose. And it was built in the 1800s. It stopped as a railroad turnstile bridge in 1974. Providence got rid of their half that went to India Point Park, and we all know how nice India Point Park has become, and I think we can easily rival it. There's another picture of how close it is. It's literally almost underneath the deck of the restaurant. So that's my spiel. I'll put more in writing for the September 3rd meeting, and hopefully it may not happen, but we can start the ball rolling. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councilman. When I was a kid, I used to jump off that bridge on the other side and swim across.
That's what happened.
We used to do that, actually.
Mr.
Yes.
President, I'd just like to point out that we're closing in on 10 o'clock, and we're on page 4 of a 7-page agenda.
We got to move along.
Is there any way that we could consider tabling some of these items until...
We can. My item's going to be tabled. I can let you know that right now. In fact, I'm going to request...
Are you blaming me, Councilman?
No, I'm blaming all of us.
Do I hear there's a Yankee game on later tonight?
There is an executive session, so...
So I have no problem deferring item F, the traffic control appointment discussion, the item D, the cleanup discussion citywide. I think we have it circulating on the television, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And I can post online on my Facebook, and I think the city said that they might be posting it on theirs too, and we're going to post it we're going to get communication out to get people involved in the cleanup next weekend.
Okay.
I also like to defer, actually tabled C, item C.
Okay, so with that being said, that will conclude council members. That would shave off
G and H.
Oh, G and H, I'm sorry.
I'll move to defer G as well. Do we require a movement to table these? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and table G as well.
Defer. And we're going to defer H, as I've indicated, but put it on the next council meeting as a vote. And again, that concludes, that shaves off a good 2 hours off the meeting right there. First passage of vote for the ordinance of personnel. We've done that already. It takes us right on to old business, or...
Section B, item under ordinances, 1B.
Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. We got a second passage ordinance here for title administration, right?
Nope, number B.
Item 1B, the
B,
ordinance.
the high school?
Yep, for first passage.
Okay. Councilman, you want to just...
Yeah, and I can summarize this. So as I understand it, we voted to approve this bond last November. We now need to vote to approve the actual action of taking the bond, to allow the mayor to go through all the administrative steps that are involved in, the financing, and putting the finance director in charge of making sure that the bond steps are taken, actually basically taking the loan that the voters approved last year. So, Mr. City Solicitor, I don't know if I've left anything key out of that. I think that's in summary. I've read this thing 5 times to make sure that it matches exactly, and I can't find anything that's different from the language that we had in our bond language.
This was drafted by bond counsel and myself. Basically, you're right. This is just the authorization to allow the mayor to execute the bonds, the finance director to execute the bonds that have already been approved. But they need this resolution because the mayor, absent this resolution, the mayor wouldn't have the ability to sign without the council's authority.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Public hearing, second passage for vote, an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended entitled Administration, Section 116 to 150, sponsored by Councilman Cahoon.
So these, I guess we have to do these one at a time? All right. So the first of these two ordinances, basically these two ordinances are joined in that they effectively create a new position, as we described in the last meeting at first passage. That new position is the Director of, I always get it backwards, Economic Development and Planning. That position will preside over both the planning and the economic development divisions within the city, and the idea is to lend, that kind of strategic vision, et cetera, that's required in a city like ours, who's really on the move from an economic standpoint. I don't believe, I made no changes, I don't believe there are any changes to this second passage. Madam Clerk, can you confirm for me that the appropriate advertisement was done for both ordinances with regard to second passage of these?
Yes, we have 2 cycles of advertising in the posts that happen with it.
Okay. I received no comments, questions, concerns, et cetera, from constituents. Accordingly, I'm prepared to propose that we move to second passage.
I just have a question. How does this pertain to the zoning department? Is zoning involved, or there's still a separate entity?
Zoning would be a separate entity.
Because I know zoning works with planning in
Yes.
terms of developing, construct, so they still would have to, because I know that's a process, right? They have this planning board, then they have the zoning board, and they
They're-
kind of go back off of each other. It's essentially 3 boards that work together to
Correct.
get things, either new construction, updated construction. So how would the zoning board, is that essentially just a separate entity?
It remains a separate entity, it doesn't change.
Okay.
And just to remind folks, this is second passage, so if there is anyone wishing to speak from the public for or against this, please step up to the podium. Are you against this, Mr. Furtado?
I'm still unsure, but I'm just up here to help the councilman in case there are any other questions, but he seems to be able to answer all of them, so.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Again, this is a public forum. I'm going to ask one more time, otherwise it's going to be closed. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please step forward to the podium. If not, public comment is closed at this time.
Mr. President, so I just want to be specific. I move to approve an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Administration, Section 116 to 150.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor for approval for this amendment. Would anyone like to second?
Second.
Then we have a second. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye.
Now,
Thank you.
we have to move to public hearing on the second one?
Yes. Well, Madam Clerk, you mind reading the second passage?
Absolutely. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Administration, Section 166 to 178.
Any questions from the council before I open this up for public comment?
And I believe that the key change on this one was simply the constituency of the planning board and reconstructing the planning board, given the fact that this new position exists. Is there another?
No, also to conform with the charter changes, so it makes the planning board consistent with the number of people who was added by the city charter.
Okay, yeah. And
The planning
we
board
also-
was expanded.
I think we also made the applicable changes of city manager to mayor.
Correct.
For those.
We're doing that as we go along, hopefully, yeah.
So what was the difference in, I haven't read the revised, yeah,
We added 2 members for the charter, and
okay.
the old ordinance said 5.
And those are to be appointed by
All mayoral appointments.
appointments, okay. With the council approval? Or no?
Hold on.
All wards. So currently, they're represented by each ward. So these would be general, citywide, but their authority has not changed, correct?
The planning board authority is set by state statute,
Okay.
and they do need council approval.
Any other further questions from the council before I decide I'll proceed to open this up for public comment? Anyone from the public wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please step up to the podium. Anyone here from the public wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please step up to the podium. If not, public comment is officially closed at this time.
And with that, Mr. President, I move to approve an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Administration, Sections 166 through 178.
Okay, so we do have an approval motion on the floor.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Next item is old business, resolutions to request items through the mayor's office, solicitor interpretation, Councilman Morato.
I want to turn this over to our solicitor. The last meeting, I requested a written decision to the council on that.
I don't know if this accurately reflects, I believe the written decision was whether or not the council could adopt a resolution that would direct the department head to do a certain thing. I think that's what it was.
No, that's incorrect. The conversation we had was that does the council have a right to put forward a resolution requesting something be done through the mayor's office, not directly to a department head? That was not the question that was discussed.
Then I misunderstood the question. I apologize. I didn't research that issue. I did not. I researched the other issue. I'll get back to you by the next council meeting.
Can we get that in before the next council
Absolutely,
meeting to all council members, please?
Yes, I will. I apologize for that.
So are we deferring this to the next councilman's meeting, Councilman
Correct, and
Morato?
with the understanding that the solicitor will forward something to us ahead of time.
Okay. Moving right along, under old business, fleet informational follow-up for 2019-2020 budget. Councilman Morato?
Councilman Cahoon, do you want me to table this? Because I have some questions that weren't exactly answered yet. I don't know if you want to get together with me on that.
Yeah, I know I haven't had an opportunity to talk. I've been tough to reach. So if that works,
sure.
I'm happy to.
So we're going to defer this to the next meeting?
Yes, defer that.
All right, very good. City Clerk, we could put that on the record for the next meeting, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we're moving right along. That concludes old business. We're moving on to new business at this point in time.
New business reports of other city officials, City Solicitor Michael J. Marcello, Claims Committee report.
Madam Clerk, as you know, we didn't finish our Claims Committee report yet, so I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Next item, please.
Okay, that's Office of the City Clerk office needs regarding safety. Do you want me to go up there or do you want me to stay here?
Okay. Would you like, okay, we're going to, if we could just jump back up to the, before we proceed with the reports of other city official, we're going to jump back up to number 2 on the old business for city fleet information follow-up for 2019-2020. Is that what you're requesting?
Correct. I want to apologize. I didn't realize you were here, so we might as well answer some questions that I have. So.
And Councilman, you're deferring this also with outside of the questions you're about to ask to the next meeting? You want to carry this on, or you just want to proceed with it for?
Since we tabled it, is it possible to go back and just ask a couple of
I don't think we just deferred it. We didn't table it.
Yes.
Yeah, there was no vote. Yeah.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good. So a couple of questions I have. And as I've mentioned
If I may interrupt, can you just give your name and your title?
William McMahon, Fleet Manager, City of East Providence.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just didn't know who he was, that's all.
Thank you.
I try to stay low. I try to lay low so you don't.
That's not going to happen now.
I know, I can tell.
So this...
Excuse me, just before we start, if I may make a motion to extend the meeting, the hour is now 10:08.
I second that.
We have a motion to extend the meeting
15.
for an additional 15 minutes. We have a second on the floor. Roll call vote.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye, thank you.
So, Mr. McMahon, this report that was presented to me, this is every vehicle that's leased, take home, and owned by the city?
I just did the take-home vehicles. I didn't do any leased vehicles at all, so I'm not sure. Can I take a quick look at that? This is not leased. These are city-owned take-home vehicles.
Is it possible to get a list also of the leased vehicles?
Sure.
I believe that was requested through the mayor's office in an email communication weeks ago. Also, these vehicles, I'm not done yet. These, I added up all the numbers, and I noticed that, is this based on a monthly, or quarterly, or yearly?
That's daily. That's a daily number.
So these numbers of maintenance and insurance, that's on a daily basis?
Oh, hang on. I have a... Breaks down so you can get per year. Cost per gallon. Miles per gallon that the vehicle gets. Insurance cost. And it gives you an average of 91 cents per gallon. So that's what it costs. And it's very easily, you just very easily add that to the amount of miles traveled doing from work. And it gives you the answer.
Okay. So this list is not a quarterly or monthly, these expenses?
That's insurance per year.
Per year, okay.
That is between November 1st and... I'm sorry.
This from the podium, please.
Yeah, can you have another copy?
You need a copy?
I have a copy. I don't know what he's asking unless I can see it.
I'll go page. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I apologize you've been here this long.
That's okay.
It's going to be kind of pointless to have this conversation.
I'm getting paid time and a half for it.
It's going to be kind of pointless to have this conversation.
No, I'm not.
It's going to be kind of pointless to have this conversation when we don't have the numbers that were requested or simplified in a way that we can understand. When I look at this report, and I'm not putting you at fault, but I need to, you do this every day, you know exactly what you're talking about. I need to see what you're referring to. So when I look at maintenance, is that, monthly, quarterly, and you just...
That maintenance cost is from November 1st until the 13th of this month.
Okay.
And the insurance cost is per year. And the miles per gallon is given on the Fuel Master program that we have that actually tells us the exact efficiency that the fuel gets, that the vehicle gets. And the cost per mile is out of that bubble sheet that I showed you. We add all these numbers to. And it gives you a cost per mile, and just multiply that by the miles that the car travels to and from work, and it gives you a common number.
For our budget discussion, is it fair to say that we can we get a clearer picture, more detailed? Mm-hmm. Would that be possible for the next meeting?
Yep.
Can that include also leased vehicles?
Yeah, I don't have any, I can find out who has them. I don't control these vehicles at all, but I can get them from.
Okay. So for those reasons, there's no purpose in going into detail with this. And I'll get together with Councilman Cahoon if we can look over some of these and see if there's anything that we can discuss for the upcoming budget talks that we're going to have, so. Sorry.
That's okay. That's the same formula that I used for you like several, I'll give you several reports
So,
like
yeah,
that.
almost
Same
annually.
formula, same, everything's the same.
Yeah, I'm going to bring those to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Mr. McMahon, can I ask one quick question? I promise it's fast. With regard to sourcing of vehicles, do we just purchase them from wherever we can find whatever the best deal is, or do you have certain contracts that you typically go to, or?
Usually we do the MPA bid, and then sometimes I can even get them cheaper than that when I do purchase them. The police department has pretty much taken over purchasing their own vehicles. I'm not involved in that too much anymore, and that they're like our biggest purchases. And each department's pretty much taking care of that. And everybody goes through the MPA.
Do you find that the MPA generally provides value, or just does it depend on the vehicle?
I think it makes it actually quicker to buy the vehicle. It doesn't. We don't. A lot of times you don't actually save, and I go other ways.
Okay.
I could jump on the MPA right away and buy a vehicle easily, and nobody would ask questions. But I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right all the time.
Okay.
So we do look around. We try to do our best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it, Councilman?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Still on the new business, reports of other city officials. Number 2, Office of City Clerk, office needs regarding safety. Samantha Burnett. Yes.
Good evening. I'll be quick. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a city clerk, part of my responsibility is to serve as the department head and lead the 6 clerks in my department. I humbly stand here tonight to ask the Council for support in working with the mayor and his administration to create a safer environment for our clerks. Since January 2019, I've asked for a $6 lock to be installed on our swing door in the clerk's office. I've asked this in department head meetings, I've asked this in emails, and I've asked during meetings with the mayor. It is overlooked, ignored, and for something that takes about 5 minutes to install, it is not a priority for 7 months. My department has hardworking, dedicated employees that love their job, and I'm so proud to work alongside with them on a daily basis. And many of you have interacted with them. There's always a laugh, or we're working through a tough day with teamwork and camaraderie. But when I see them every day, knowing that they have no level of protection, should we experience a hostile scenario, it's a hard thing not to feel bad about. In April of this year, we had a gentleman enter our office. He was mumbling and mentioning all he had to do was press a button, and he was tired of this. He then went out into the lobby area and began waving an 18-inch screwdriver. He was later arrested and found to have a large history of violence in several states. The clerks had nowhere to go during this time, and there was nothing to protect them. The clerks and all employees at City Hall deserve a safe, working environment. For comparison purposes, when you go to the mayor's and the administrative offices on the 3rd floor, you have 2 fully enclosed glass windows. You have a lock with a code that only a handful know. And I can't even enter that office without somebody letting me in. That and other renovations cost over $30,000 for that department alone. So you can understand why after several months, I can't get a $6 lock on my gate for my team. It's frustrating, and I have exhausted my efforts. Employees should receive the same levels of protection as any other employee, regardless of title. It is fair and equitable. We have a single and failing lock on the door. It is the only lock that we have that would shield us from any danger should we needed to lock ourselves in the event of an emergency. And for the record, we are the first office when you walk into City Hall. It is nothing more than a simple lock you and I would have on our front door. I'm requesting another lock installed on this door, a deadbolt at the very least. I wish I didn't have to stand here and have this conversation, but we live in a world where we have to say something, live and lead proactively, and ensure, even in the worst case scenario, we have done our best to keep one another safe. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Is that a vote?
No, it's not a vote.
No, it's just a report as a request.
Just a report. Yeah.
It's not for a vote.
Can I ask, Mr. President? Can, I don't know, the mayor wants to speak. Can we get this lock?
Is this a vote that he has to come up, or do we go outside of docket items?
I don't know. I'm just asking him if we can get the lock. If you want to vote, we can...
Yes, I'd like to take a vote on that, if that's procedure.
I move then that the mayor be allowed to come to the podium so I can ask him a question.
I don't necessarily think a vote is
It's not a
necessary.
vote.
This is just general conversation. We've never had the mayor had to vote to come up to speak to the council. But if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But that's not in the rules, and it's not in the procedure that we followed.
I just want to ask if we can get this $6 lock.
Yes, Mr. Council Vice President. So we've started doing our capital improvements budget, and one of the things that we're putting in there is a sizable sum so that we can make some improvements to collections and to the clerk's office. Currently, the clerk's office is wide open to the public. It's one of the most actively, visited offices in the city. And I think the lock they're talking about is on a half swing door. Is that what we're talking about, the half swing door? So the fact, will it make a difference? Yes, it's a half swing door. The whole place is wide open. The public have complete unfettered access into the archives, the vaults, and all of that nature. So the system's been this way for many, many years, and I'll have to check my emails to see if this is the first I'm hearing about a lock. I'll check it. Maybe I missed it somewhere with all the other things that we're dealing with. But you know what? We can absolutely get a lock for that half swing door because we don't want anybody to come in and cause an issue. And we are taking it serious that we're putting it into capital improvement because we would like to do a much more secure, we don't have the money right now, but we'd like to do a much more secure environment for the clerks. And we actually want to restructure collections because it makes me very upset when I see citizens waiting in the hallway. The line goes halfway down the hall, waiting to pay taxes. And then when they come in, it's a small, tight area. They can hear everybody talking over each other. So, yeah, we're putting money into capital improvements to make that.
Can I ask, along this line, a little off topic, but I had a constituent stop me the other day and ask about the area out here. I call it the reception area, the switchboard. At times there was someone there, there's not someone there. So now I'm being told there's no one there to greet anybody. Is that occupied on? Do you know, or does anyone know?
Currently, it's a vacant position, but we plan on posting that.
Okay.
So we will be posting that.
I think in a public building, it's important to have someone there, if for nothing else, to just call 911 if they see somebody rush into City Hall. It's a bad entrance, not the fault of anybody here. We didn't build this building. But, it's you can kind of sneak in pretty quickly.
And real quick, the other thing, too, is that the school department informed me that they were moving out. They came to me and said, hey, we're moving out. We're going to CTC building. That's going to open up a lot of space. I may sit down with the police department and see if we can't move the SRO's office to our city hall so that there's a more presence of law enforcement in and out of the building. Or even right now, we moved our community police sergeant and the elderly affairs officer to the senior center.
Can I just question the council? We're way off the topic.
Yeah. Thank you.
And if at any point, I would like to see them on the first floor if we could. I think that'd be.
To the clerk's
we are off topic here, so.
To the clerk's defense, she has mentioned that lock many times, to me especially.
I would go as far as say that, we should take a look at the capital budget and perhaps not only the clerk's office, but most of these offices on the first floor, put some kind of shield up or guard or whatever it may be through the capital budget, protect all the employees, especially on this floor right here. That would be just my suggestion, and we can have that discussion during the budget hearing. Okay, with that being said, we're going to proceed right on to handicap parking request for a vote. 11. First one is 1196 Arlington Avenue.
Everything's been verified, Madam Clerk?
Yes,
All appropriate documents. I move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
That would be 26 Donnelly Street, a handicap parking request. Did we batch those together?
No.
We
No.
didn't, but.
We didn't, okay.
No.
Okay,
And everything's in order in that?
yes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Next item is a resolution to establish partnership with the East Providence School Committee for community service hours for students, introduced by Councilman Morato and Councilwoman Souza.
I'll speak on that,
Yeah, I can. So this resolution comes with a growing presence in the community of volunteering. As we know, the high school student requirement for graduation is to have 24 hours of community service signed off by an organization or entity. And we do know that there are different things in the community that allow them to obtain those hours. So the city, the school has their own stuff. City side also has a variety of cleanups. As we see on the teleprompter behind us, there's one happening next week. We want to be able to work jointly with the school in being able to provide those community service hours to students or juveniles in the community that may require service hours based on what the Juvenile Hearing Board sent, mandates of them. So that's pretty much a gist. I don't know if you want anything to add.
So I just want to add that I want to thank our clerk for actually coming up with this idea and presenting this to me. And I brought Councilwoman Souza in. And I think it's an excellent idea, and the school committee was here early, but they left. And like you said, but the idea is to have a centralized place where each one on the council, if we have an event going on in our ward that you think may, these students who have to make up 24 hours of community service could benefit and also give back to the community. For example, the Louvre that took place last weekend, there's a place for them to go to and know who to contact and exactly what the details of what they're getting involved with. So any one of us can post something, and it will be done the same with the school's website. So it's just a way to get us, in a partnership with the school committee, and also to have the students give back the community and find a place that they want to do that for their requirements.
Okay, thank you. Pleasure of the council. Would anyone like to make a
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve? We have a motion to approve.
And I'd like to say too often that, council, school committee relations are, us versus them. So, kudos to both of you for putting this together. So, second.
We have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
Resolution establishing the language of a proposed amendment to the East Providence City Charter as will be voted on at the subsequent charter referendum. Councilman Morato.
And again, I'm not going to beat on this. We can still work, I believe we can still work out an MOU. However, with the time constraints from the Secretary of State, it would require an election be November 5th, correct, Mr. Solicitor? November 5th to be for the Secretary of State to have a special ballot?
That would be, yes.
Great. And then 50 days prior to that would be when you have to submit the proper documentation.
The local
correct?
board has to certify, the local board has to certify it at least 50 days before that.
So with
The
that
local
said,
board of canvassers.
So with that said, I feel that the time restraint is very narrow. I'm hoping that we can pass this tonight with the understanding that I still want to work out that MOU, and if we come to an agreement with that MOU, then we can rescind this. But I need to secure that tonight.
Okay.
So I put that back on the docket. I had it tabled last council meeting. I want to hear more input from the council, but I feel like this had to be put back on for a vote.
Is that in the form of a motion?
I make a motion.
Motion, and
Okay.
I just have a couple questions.
Okay. Okay. Before we vote, and Councilman.
I'll second at least for discussion only at this point. I'm reading, it seems a little vague. Is this asking for a special election?
Correct. On November 5th.
Because it talks about subsequent, it doesn't say, but this is what you've been talking about, a special election for just...
Special ballot, correct.
Okay.
Not election, special ballot.
Do we have the numbers on what that would cost the city? Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing is there's a range of 10 to 12, 10 to
Correct.
15,000.
From the Board of Canvassing, it's 10 to 12,000, correct.
I'm hoping at this time we can just get this MOI done first. And then, before we take 10 or 15,000 taxpayer dollars and have a special election where people aren't going to come out anyway. You know, they don't come out for special elections. You and I have talked about this. You're going to get a very small number of people out, and you don't know how that could turn out. I mean, do you think there's time to at least work on this MOI first?
Well, there's always time to work and negotiate, but I have to secure this to protect my interests. And that $10,000 to $15,000 is a small price to pay for a tool that is very necessary for this council to conduct its legislative duties. Okay, we've spent other numbers on other things that didn't require or was very necessary at that point. In point where the city clerk mentioned the $30,000 in that office upstairs. Okay, so, and that's taxpayer dollars also. That could have been, you couldn't have gotten away with that with just putting a lock on the outside door of that office. But, so this 10 to 12,000, very necessary. And just like anything else, through education, when the public is already aware of this topic. And I haven't heard anything other than why aren't they being allowed? So, to protect our interests, I feel that this needs to be put forward and to meet the time requirements. And we can continue talking about this MOU until we come to an agreement. And then when we do so, we rescind the resolution. But at this point, I want to put this forward to a vote. I'm done talking about this. You know, we've beat this enough.
Any other further questions from the council at this time? If not, we do have a motion on the floor for approval. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I thought we had I seconded it.
Oh, you second? I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, roll call vote.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye.
I would like to say that I'm going to remain committed to that MOU process. I know Councilman Morado is, and I know the mayor is, and we'll get that done.
Yeah. Okay.
Agree.
Next item, please.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to convey property located at 63-65 Warren Avenue, more commonly known as the Odd Fellows Hall, introduced by Councilwoman Souza.
So this is, as mentioned earlier today, on the docket for council approval, and this is to authorize the mayor and his office to enter into a contract for the purchase of the Oddfellows sale. Thank you. This, as the community knows, has been a building that has been vacant for many, many years with multiple issues, and we have put it out to bid on numerous occasions without any grave success. We do have someone interested who is going to preserve the historic nature of it to best of their ability and bring life to that arts district, which is necessary and vital for our community. So if no questions or concerns from the council, I motion to approve.
I'll second. I mean, it's been a blighted area, blighted building. It's producing the city zero taxes right now. It's costing us money to probably insure it, maintain it. And it appears, and I thank the mayor's office for their aggressive recruiting and also Department Head Bacharach. They seem to have a purchase and sales agreement with someone who has the money to do this. So it's kind of a win-win. And again, it goes with this whole waterfront district area of Lower Warren Avenue where we're trying to fix it up. So that's a long way to say I second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please.
The last item is resolution authorizing the mayor to pay invoices for pre-construction expenses for the new East Providence High School for July 2019, introduced by Councilman Cahoon.
Okay, so same drill as we've seen in previous months, with the added piece of we are now receiving the invoices for the building construction manager, the construction manager at risk, Gilbane. You can see, as we've talked about, those invoices and monthly invoices are starting to grow, and you can see, if you drive by the school, you can see the work actually beginning to take physical shape. You heard Mr. Moore, I believe it was the last council meeting, start to talk about the ramp-up of what that would look like. And again, these invoices are subject to approval by the owner's project manager, hired to oversee the architect and the building construction manager at risk. They are approved by the building committee, which I am co-chair of. They are approved by the school committee before we see them. So these have had several sets of eyes on these invoices to vet them before they reach this point for your consideration.
So is that a motion, Councilman?
I will make the motion to approve the invoices for, to authorize, make the motion to approve, to allow the mayor to pay these invoices.
Second.
We have a motion, second, and a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. It appears at this point in time we need to reconvene an executive session to go over the items that we did not complete early on. So if we could just reconvene at this time.
We don't require a motion to do that.
I don't think so. We're not,
Okay.